Good evening. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Cave Creek Unified School District Governing Board. Today is February 24th, and it is 6 p.m. Item 2.2, would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 2.3, roll call. All members of the board are present. Members of the cabinet that are present are Dr. Pletnick, Dr. Hendrickson, Dr. Jensen, and Mr. Dolezal. Item 2.4, formal adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there any changes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item 3.1, action to approve the direction given to the board's attorney during the executive session identified as item 1.1 above. And I will make the motion to approve the directions given to the board's attorney during the executive session identified as item 1.1 to initiate negotiations with the superintendent finalist. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. For our work study, we're going to move down to the table. Everybody else set? Okay. Item 4.1, athletics. So, what would you like to? We're here. Who wants to athletic? Okay.
Should I bring Jill and Rob up? Yeah. And Jill need a microphone.
Hi guys.
All right. I think we're organized now. All right. President Greer, governing board members, we've also invited up Mrs. Serino and Mr. Gilmore for this presentation. So I will start off the presentation and then I will hand it off to Mrs. Serino and Mr. Gilmore. This presentation is about our athletics and we're just going to be going through some of the financial matters and the pressures our athletic department is facing. Do you want to cover?
Okay, so, wow, loud. This is not a quote. This is just, as we go through this presentation, just to really give you guys an idea of what happens kind of behind the scenes with our athletic program that we're so proud about, but there's lots of things that go on that we don't publicize as well.
Daniel, that's a link, I believe. I don't know how loud it's going to be. No,
And
that's,
we're setting the stage with this video. Hopefully it works.
No, if you can just click that link.
there we go. Yep.
You guys haven't taught the kids how to embed videos into a PowerPoint?
We tested it out.
Thanks. I don't know. I haven't tried to work on my.
Sure. You want to put it up here? Well, we're just going to put it right here.
Sorry, everybody. Technology at its finest.
I didn't do anything.
Just a reminder of truly the many celebrations that come in with athletics.
Yeah, and ultimately that went along with the last video just showing, or the last slide that talked about you see all these good things. So that it was a highlight of the good things and how things look wonderful up front without seeing behind the curtain and all the plate spinning and all of the different things that go into it, just setting the stage for that.
All right, and I think that's a great way of putting it, how Superintendent Dolezal did with looking behind the curtain. And that's what, again, we're trying to do, especially as we approach this new budget season, is to give you an idea of what's going on and to open those curtains and to kind of show everybody what is our financial position in many different ways. And this is with athletics. And we are under budget constraints. What I can tell you is Mrs. Serino and Mr. Gilmore have been working very, very closely with the finance department this year on making athletics happen, meeting our budget needs, meeting our salary needs with our athletics. Now, again, athletics isn't protected funding; it's discretionary. We'll go through and we'll talk about M&O. It is not self-funded. There is this misconception that the pay-to-play self-funds our athletics. That is not the case. Over the past 2 years that I've been here, it's more and more M&O money we are putting towards athletics, and we're going to kind of break that down. And again, certain forms of funding are fragmented and dependent upon fundraising, dependent on families. So as we go through the different funds that we're using currently for athletics, I'm going to talk about what we can depend upon, and then again, what we can't necessarily depend upon. And, you know, what a healthy athletics program is, you know, we see what our kids do out there. We see what they're doing on the fields, what they're doing on the courts. But behind the scenes, it is relatively fragile. So this, in the 24-25 school year, this is how much we spent on athletics. So we spent over $850,000 between the funds that I'm going to talk about for athletics. Now, I'm going to say this multiple times tonight. This is district accounts. These are district accounts. So I'm not talking booster accounts. I am not talking anything but what came in and out of CCUSD. And I think that's going to be important to distinguish tonight. And we're going to mention it a few times of how we're piecing together our athletics currently.
Is this for even elementary, cross-country, middle school sports?
This is high school athletics, so this is referring to our high school. So M&O spending, again, it is not that we are not putting any district dollars towards athletics. You can see $192,000 went towards athletics and M&O. You can see a large chunk of our M&O salaries and benefits. When we talk 63, 64, 6,500, that is purchase services. And if you remember the budget, what I'm talking about are these codes that we always have to use. So it tells us what we're spending money on. Again, that's part of the transparency of being a public school district rather than private or charter. 6,600 on supplies. You can see almost $28,000. So our district M&O, this does compete directly with other programs. This is where we have to make a decision. What bucket are we putting money into? And how much money are we putting into each one of these buckets? So as we put more money towards athletics from our M&O, we have to take money from somewhere else. And again, that has to do, this deals with our budget capacity for the district. Now, auxiliary operations. So this is where your pay-to-play fees, your gate fees come in for the most part. When the pay-to-play fees also could be tax credit. So that's the difficult part, is if they use tax credit, it goes in a different bucket. Auxiliary is separate from that. But typically, what Mr. Gilmore uses these fees for is to work with officials, transportation, league fees, equipment. Again, these are our gate fees, so security comes in for these fees as well. And the difficult part is, even though we do get gate and even though we do have these pay to play, the prices of everything is increasing to the point of, the gate's not covering some of the expenses. Or as they talk about individual sports, we're using gates from, say, football to supplement sports that don't have that gate entry fee. So you can see, again, if we look at here, salaries and benefits, quite a bit of money is spent from these auxiliary funds for athletics on that.
What sports don't have gate fees? Right now, the sports that don't have gate fees are baseball, softball, tennis, golf, swim.
So the next is tax credit. So again, the tax credit is governed by those tax credit statutes from the state of Arizona. And again, sometimes it is, when we say tax credit, it's not that people are just donating to tax credit to help sports. It's sometimes for the pay-to-play fees, which then we use for, instead of the auxiliary, it would come into here, I should say. So you can see the breakdown of our tax credit, but we spent nearly $200,000 in tax credit money.
Now, is this at the discretion that you guys are choosing, or if the parents are giving their tax credit and say they need to go towards their child's sport, it falls in this bucket?
Correct.
Or the first one?
No, if the tax credit, if they go, hey, I want to use this for my student sport, it goes into this bucket. And next is gifts and donations. This is definitely probably one of the most unreliable sources of income, and listed there, and in talking with Mrs. Serino and Mr. Gilmore, this could vary quite a bit, and especially if we're having a good season, winning season, you can get those donations or the gifts. Also, economic conditions, depending upon if people have that money to do donations. And it does vary greatly by program. And so, you have some sports, of course, with more athletes. They may get more donations. They may get more gifts. Or it could be a smaller program, but we have a great donor of that program. So this is not a consistent stream in any way. And the one thing I do want to mention again, this is different than boosters. If people give us a gift or a donation directly to our school district, it comes out of our accounts. But if a donation is made to one of our booster programs, that is run separately. We have zero control over how the boosters spend that money. So that's one thing I really, and it's very difficult because the support from our boosters is tremendous. And so if we're looking at it, for example, our baseball team raised, and Ms. Serino can expand on this, but a large chunk of money, and that field is spectacular right now. But if people donated money to that was actually donated to the boosters. We don't have control necessarily of what they spend that on. But we work closely, and Mr. Gilmore does a great job in working with each of the boosters programs to try to organize and coordinate those booster programs so that we align them with the needs of the program.
And maybe, Mr. Gilmore, you want to talk a little bit more about, since he brought up the baseball program, since that's most recently what they've done to raise funds and give back to the actual program to better what we're doing within baseball. But there's many examples. You could talk girls basketball. Take the floor.
So booster clubs have truly evolved over the past year. We've had an amazing run of success with our girls basketball program. We have 5 members on the booster club, and they're very active in supporting our programs, supporting our coaches with what their needs are, additional equipment that might be needed to facilitate a better practice. They're there at a beck's call from our coach. Our baseball boosters did a SNAP fundraiser. They raised over $30,000, and they took the money and put it right back into our fields. And the booster dads, we have 3. They were the ones that assisted with the raising of the money, and they were the ones putting their time and effort into improving our fields. And that's been tremendous work. And the kids see it. The kids see the difference when they come out to a nice baseball field. They come out to batting cages that have roofs on top of them now. They feel special when they see the support that they're getting. The parents, the students feel amazing in girls basketball. The smiles on the kids' faces when you come to a girls basketball game has been incredible. Our girls basketball is outdrawing our boys with our gate revenues at the ticket gate in 1 year. And that's a strong booster club that gets the word out. They're involved and active in social media. They're doing more than just spending dollars. They're involved and engaged. The booster club has been an amazing success for our athletic programs.
So that's just to name it 2. We could probably speak for hours about everything our boosters do for our program to support our students.
And now moving on to the next bucket of money, and there is a summary slide, so if you've missed any of this, I summarize it on the next slide. But our student activity account. Now, student activity account, this is money raised by the students and decided how it's spent by the students. So this would be your fundraisers. So if students fundraise, it goes into this account. Again, differentiation. If a booster fundraises and it's a sole booster and the kids aren't involved, that stays in the boosters. But if the kids are part of the fundraising, even with boosters, a portion of it goes in to this account, the student activity account. But again, the students direct how this money is spent. So here is a summary of those 5 different accounts which we draw money from. If you look at the total between just salaries and benefits, you can see it's over $300,000, or about 37% of the overall athletic budget. When we add transportation, the transportation costs last year were almost $108,000. So when you add those two numbers together, about 50% of our athletic budget is spent between salaries and benefits and transportation costs.
Are we paying benefits because they're also a full-time staff? Otherwise, coaches don't get.
Remember, it's not just coaches' salaries that get paid out of here. So when we pay for football games, when we pay our security staff, they're getting paid out of these funds. When we do ticket takers, they're getting paid out of these funds. Our announcers. So these are all.
Are any of these people full-time employees?
Yeah.
But they're full-time employees in another role as well. Like the ticket taker, I see
But
it as fully as a teacher or something.
But again, remember when we're talking benefits, that 21% paying into ASRS, we're paying, our FICA taxes, Medicare, Medicaid. So yes, we still have to pay that as a district.
So is that like a double dip based on function? You if they're a teacher, they're already getting that, but then they do this, they get an additional? Or is it an average out?
You mean just what comes out of your paycheck when you pay taxes?
Mhm.
Not-
Well, the employer response, not health benefits.
Yeah,
Yes,
like,
correct.
Yeah, Social Security.
Yep, correct.
Yeah.
So double dip. Well, and in some cases, we are paying overtime. So like with our security, so we are paying that extra amount, time and a half for that. Now I'll you.
All right, so you saw the numbers. So this is where we pull on the heartstrings a little bit. And, when we're looking at different equipment, do we need updates in, whatever you pick? Those are the decisions that Mr. Gilmore and I make as the 2 athletic directors representing. Trying to work with our boosters, because again, they do so much for us, but they're doing a lot of things that don't necessarily always go straight back to the program. They're great for matching uniforms to go to nationals or to go to the basketball games or whatever it is, but maybe not always benefiting the program as a whole for the future years to come. And then just the challenges that we have, just paying for our coaches. And Mr. Gilmer can tell a little story about what happened earlier this year with the funding and, a small versus a large program when you take a team to one tournament and pay for the stipends, where that ends us, or where we end at.
Wrestling. Yeah, so the sport near and dear to my heart is wrestling, and thank you, Mr. Dolezal, Superintendent Dolezal, for being there for our state champion. We had a state champion this year, heavyweight wrestler, Jax Finch, and that was pretty exciting and very rewarding to see him get his arm raised up at the Veterans Memorial Coliseum on Saturday night. So wrestling is an amazing sport. It's hardest and most demanding. Our kids have 2 positions that are paid, a varsity head coach and then an assistant coach. When you take the stipend pay for them, and then you take a tournament fee, and then you take the transportation fees. If you take the transportation to one tournament, one tournament fee, and the coach's stipends, we were nearly at $8,000, and we had 33 wrestlers on our team this year. It brought in through our $335 fees, we were sitting at $10,000. So do the math. We only had a couple $1,000s left to operate. And operating expenses are just in transportation alone are far greater than $2,000. So even with 30 kids in a program, we finish top 6 in our section in the state as a team. We raised the hand of a state champion, and we're taking on a loss.
Well, and there again, it underlines the fact that the $335 fee does not cover, which again I think has been a misnomer for years now, is that, oh, everything is funded by that. And that's just not the case. So that's what we want to make sure is pretty clear tonight, is that it does take other funding avenues to make sure that our kids are able to participate fully.
We had last year, speaking of state champions, a girls golf program. We have had 2 amazing coaches in our program, and we were looking and did interest meetings and sign-ups, and by the time it was all said and done, we committed to a head coach and assistant coach. We had 6 golfers in our program. And so we took on a loss at the beginning, but I will tell you, we took on a loss because it was a returning state champion program. We are working, and these coaches are working to go down below to work on promoting the sport at the middle school, promoting the sport so we can build this program back up. And that's sometimes what we have to do. And that's what we did. And it was tough, but we expect bigger and greater numbers next year in our girls program.
And ultimately, the bottom line is, if we don't have those numbers, then we won't have the number of coaches. We've got to match the number of coaches to the number of athletes and all of that stuff. It's just where we need to be at this point in time. So,
and just another misnomer, as you spoke earlier, Superintendent Dolezal, one thing with this wrestling example, many of our parents believe that we got transportation for free. We don't. We don't get deals. We are paying for transportation as well. So something also and it was in the presentation earlier, but to be noted. The numbers don't show the late night conversations, the early morning conversations that Mr. Gilmore and I have when it's December and it's time to pay our coaches. And we literally are scrambling, trying to figure out how to live paycheck to paycheck is what we're doing in our athletics program. And we have to pay our people. We have some amazing people who, again, the theme is our programs, our athletic programs are killing it right now. And that's because of the coaches that we have and the support from Mr. Gilmore. So we got to pay them, but it's a scramble monthly, how we're going to pay the bills and how we're going to get whatever that need is at the moment. So,
and just one further, we have a very strong reputation in the Valley. Our student athletes are doing amazing work. We had 2 female basketball players achieve 1,000 points in their high school careers this year. We had 3 wrestlers, varsity wrestlers, win their 100th match. You don't see that. We don't see the consistency across the board like we're offering here in our programs. We have 17 kids who've already signed letters to move on to college to continue playing sports. And we are building some amazing programs here. Top 10 in every sport this year. Our cross-country team took the sections, girls, the last 2 years in a row and finished top 5 in the state the last 2 years in a row. Our boys cross-country team hasn't qualified for state in 5 years. They qualified for state this year. So the kids are stepping up. We have, like you say, amazing coaches, Ms. Sereno, but I'm going to say our reputation around the Valley is incredibly strong.
Well, and again, I want to harp on a theme for tonight is really talking about a comprehensive high school experience, a comprehensive district experience, partnerships, and then balance. We could not do this without the partnerships of our booster clubs and the amazing work they do. all of their fundraising and their things, though, take revenue streams and they go there, to where, again, if you're looking at, well, quick quiz for my board, what budget function would items for like a pit, a jumping pit for pole vault, what budget would that come out of? That's stuff, lasts long term, that'd be capital. We know the history of where the capital, well, thanks to tough decisions this year, we've kept more capital in than we ever have before. Well, I won't say ever, but we're moving in that right direction. But again, the capital piece is absolutely critical. And again, if we don't have the capital, then it can come out of M&O, and that's where you get hit with. So again, we've talked about facility improvement needs that are coming down the pipe, whether that's athletics or not. I mean, whether that's transportation, athletics, roofs, whatever it is, we know these things are coming. And ultimately, I believe, I know my cabinet believes, I do believe Mrs. Serino and Mr. Gilmore believe, I believe this board believes that we are not a comprehensive high school if we do not have athletics. So it is not a question of they're going away. It is how are we going to continue to move forward and be creative. We've talked about capital raise campaigns, things like that. What exactly are those? Because again, athletics is a path. Mr. Gilmore just talked about 17 students taking that athletic path to the next level of enrollment. There are athletic pathways, and athletics opens doors, and those are the stories that I've heard them say tonight, is what doors are being opened for our student athletes with athletics, and we want to consider, and we want to make sure those continue to happen. Again, here we go. In a perfect world, I would tell you that booster clubs, in my opinion, Bill Dolezal speaking here for himself, that a booster club should take care of the nice-to-haves, the extras. Again, we need to find a balance between the money that they're raising and that we're working together on, because we need help with essentials. It's not just extras. So again, Member Moore, that this one up your alley in terms of advocacy, well, for all of us, is to tell the story. Mr. Gilmore did a great job talking about our reputation. What are the things that are going on in athletics? Our community needs to know about that. Stabilizing funding, what is predictable, what is equitable, what can we support? Community partnerships go beyond just donations. We all know that currently this year, our Director of Student Services, Mrs. Serino, is serving as acting principal. So I know when she can return to her role. In terms of that, she's got ideas about direct donation campaigns and some other things to get out and go. But again, we need to look at those things and how do we bring balance, and how do we have our boosters continue to come alongside of us. Again, we are nowhere without our partners, and they are tremendous partners. While we don't oversee them directly, the fact that we actually now, for the first time ever, starting 2 years ago, actually have a booster's handbook with how they should be going with the different things, how they can partner with us, how they become an official booster, because if they're not an official booster, then they shouldn't be using our name, likeness, and image. And those are all questions about, there's things along those lines as well. So are we stopping now for questions, or are we still, no, we have
a couple more. Do you want to talk about stipends or anything? And again, I think a couple of things that are going on in the background is the coaching stipends and extracurricular stipends, and Superintendent Dolezal spoke about it before. We're making sure that those stipends align with participation numbers, and I think that's a big piece to make sure that if we have X amount of students, we have X amount of coaches. So that's one big piece they're looking at, along with that salary schedule.
Daniel, does that link work, or are we in the same boat? Awesome. So Mrs. Serino, in conjunction with Mr. Gilmore, worked really hard in looking at, again, making our salary schedule a little more competitive, but not costing more money because we won't have as many coaches. And Mrs. Serino, did I get that? In terms of that, so again, there's no action tonight. We're at a work study, so we'll share this with you again, and we'll bring it forth for an action. So if you scroll all the way, Daniel, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is bands of years of service. So just so they know if they've been here an X amount of time, there is going to be an increase. So scroll back down, Daniel, please. Yes, that's what I meant. So right there. So when you're talking about middle school, let's talk about the future of middle school athletics at Sonoran Trails. For years, we were a part of the North Valley Middle School Conference. That basically dissolved into really Deer Valley and us. At this point in time, we have been invited to no longer be a part of the Deer Valley Middle School Athletic Program. So as of right now, we will be working Mr. Boggs, Mr. Larson. I know even Mr. Gilmore has thrown in his willingness. But what are we going to do with our middle school student athletes and feeder programs that exist at this point in time? So there's things. Well, they have 5 middle schools that are the same as us in terms of those things. To be honest, when you get there, they'll talk about transportation costs. They'll talk about some costs and things like that. The other thing that they will talk about is that our parents have not been the greatest guests when they go to away games, and comments they've made to principals, to superintendents, to assistant superintendents while they are visiting those fields has not been appreciated. And
How are we doing at the high school on that?
Sportsmanship stuff.
I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
taking over that, I remember as a student at Harry's, there was some nice laws laid down at the high school level. Does that play down there? Is there a way to turn this around? I mean,
In high school sports, team sports, when we have officials, the AIA, the officials at games, score us. They score our players, our coaches, our parents, and the home team's administration. And there's a 1 through 5 rating. And the year before I got here, the year we finished, we were dead last in 5A. We've moved to 4A, obviously. We've improved that. We were 12th, hovering between 12th and 14th overall in our fall sports. And
that's
we
in,
kind of took
that's
it.
in 4A.
Yeah, and then we kind of took it a little bit. We the roughest sport is soccer, where our officiating is just abysmal. They've challenged our, taxed our parents, I will say. I've been to games, and what an official would deem as rough is really not that bad. What I will say is that we have some work to do to get back to that 10 to 14 range, and we'll get there in the spring. I strongly believe that we're going to get there. The message is clear and sent that we don't tolerate that behavior at our games, and there have been conversations with parents and coaches. Still am an active football official. I don't like when people razz our referees. It's not right. You could say one thing, leave it alone, and move on. And so at our high school level, that's how we look at it, and people know that they're being watched. The parents know that. We do a pre-meeting at the start of fall, winter, and spring. It's a mandatory parent meeting. We just had one this past Thursday, and I shared that with the parents. And I share it with the parents of the story that we can't be dead last anymore. We have to keep working. We're much better than that.
that's my point.
How do we handle, I'm just curious moving forward, if you have these middle schoolers with issues, how do we handle them at the high school level? Because parents come with students.
Oh, I'd like to make it clear that it wasn't our athletes that were the issue. It was their parents.
But
So I hear it. But at the same point in time, doing nothing gets you nothing. Since Mr. Gilmore's joined, he's put a certain temperature to the whole game, and it is affecting change. So it still goes back to what I say, even like the girls' basketball. You get an effective leader, you get effective outcome. So I don't accept that we're out of something that we can fix things. It's a choice of whether we want to or not. And I'm just saying, at the end of the day, accountability is a two-way street, to the parents, to the students, to the staff.
So to answer my question, this is being dealt with, like you clearly know the parents. That's what I mean, when they move on up. I'm assuming.
We do not clearly know the parents. This again is from conversations with Deer Valley and from different leaders of them expressing their experience with our middle school families. So there is no Mr. Dolezal. We know it was you, so that is not known at this point in time. Mrs. Serino has done some exploratory things. You know, does it become an intramural program? Scottsdale may be willing to work with us. They've talked about us really having to travel. You know, we could look at, you could look at charters and privates. What you just brought up, Member Walker, respectfully, I don't even know that would be competitive. But yes, we can look at that stuff, and we will be looking at that stuff.
We know the importance of feeding into Cactus Shadows, so we are working extremely hard right now to figure out what we can do for our middle school kids. And just to iterate again, what Mr. Gilmore has done, we have a coaching clinic that's new since he took over. The coaches hear very clearly what our expectation is and who we are at Cactus Shadows. The expectation is these coaches then manage our parents, because that is a horrible representation of who we are and a horrible model for our students. So we make it very clear. Something that now moving into middle school, we'll have to follow suit with what's happening at Cactus Shadows once we better understand what that middle school program is going to look like.
And Mr. Gilmore, right, I can speak to hosting the coaches because I spent a couple hours there and did a presentation in terms of what it means to be a leader and what it means to be together and what it means to wear a falcon on your chest or your back or your helmet or wherever that goes.
Are the middle school parents aware that their conduct has created an issue?
They are now.
Now, as of from this? I mean, well, that's what I'm saying. You know, you had parent meetings for the spring.
I had this past week.
But that's for the high school kid, high school program.
Last spring, we had a baseball parent chew out an umpire in a game, and the umpire threw him out. And I went over to him and I said, "We'll talk tomorrow. Exit this baseball stadium quietly, and we'll talk tomorrow." I had a conversation with him and let him know under no circumstance he cannot. That can't happen again. And I made him take the NFHS sportsmanship class and hand me a certificate. I sent him, suspended him from attending 2 games. He got the certificate to me the very next day, and he was grateful that 2 games was all he got, and he was quiet and wonderful the rest of the season. So it's a matter of how you manage the parents, how you manage, and you have to be consistent.
Well, exactly. And so is there anything in place for middle school where parents are sort of brought into the fold of, model good behavior?
I don't know that we knew that it was at that level until we kind of heard and got removed from a league. So I think moving forward, yes, again, not knowing what this will look like, which is not information that people know about until tonight, this we decided would be a good time to discuss what's going on in middle school too, because we all have to step up and be better, in Jill's opinion. And
The question I though is, how do we not know? Because referees and coaches are pretty connected in the community. So there's a pulse. Like, somebody knows something. So I find it hard that, like, or even question, is someone even paying attention? I mean, Gilmore talks to the referees. I mean, I see him out on the field all the time. You probably have a pretty good gauge whether we're wetting the bed in the game or not.
Yeah,
Say that's
yeah,
fair?
yeah.
It's called leadership.
Well, Vice President Moore, I will respectfully say I found out when I got told, and that was it. And we did not have an idea. We did not know that was coming. I'm the leader of this district.
There are meetings for high school athletics. Am I
Correct.
privy
Middle
to
school athletics is
middle
not
school?
the
I
same
don't know.
program.
Yeah,
Correct.
I don't.
No. No, there is no governing body that supervises middle school athletics.
No.
No.
And in that particular league, it's Deer Valley schools and us. So they, and I will tell you just from being from Deer Valley, that their athletic directors in middle school do meet. Their athletic directors do talk. I'm not sure if we're invited to those because most of the time they're in district meetings, but that's when you're kind of a stranger coming to the table. That's what does happen.
But we have coaching staff or whoever who are at these games with the student athletes
And parents.
and parents. Surely they were aware of misconduct if a referee was.
I would respectfully rebut that in terms of if parents are having side conversations on whatever court, field, what have you, and happen to be talking with a school principal that they don't know is the principal, or an assistant superintendent who they don't know is the assistant superintendent, or the superintendent that they don't know is the superintendent, and they're just having what they feel is this conversation between somebody they're standing next to, and boy, these fields aren't very nice. Oh my gosh, why don't you keep up these things? Why do you allow this to go on? And until that is then brought, so that is not something that a coach would see. This is not parents rushing out on the field because they're angry and things like that, if that helps.
Okay, and wrapping it back around here. So really the point of the PowerPoint was to provide just background. Again, I am that whole word transparency. In order to be transparent, we have to tell you what is truly out there and not hide the numbers and not hide what we're doing. We're not hiding the struggles. And, the financial constraints and the support structures, we've talked about it. We've talked about, as a district, where are we financially? As asking for help from outside organizations, where are we? One thing that comes to my head, and again, the questions begin popping up out there of like, what do you mean they have to pay for transportation? I want to clarify that. Remember, when you look at our M&O, it's all in buckets, right? We still have to pay for gas for the buses. We still have to pay for the drivers. So it's just moving it from one to the other. So I can expand the transportation budget too. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But it's not like our bus drivers work for free. Most of them are putting in overtime in order to make these athletic trips happen. So we do have that cost and supplement their pay, yes, member more. So the next piece is resources. A clear and consistent stipend schedule is going to be coming your way, like we saw earlier. And there has been difficulty with funding. We are finding pots of money to make everything work right now. So facilities, updating and maintenance, it's needed. There is a need to update. But again, we've talked ad nauseum about our capital concerns. And so that's why we're looking for different revenue streams to help support this. When our fields, when our courts are being used, that's why these rentals are so important, to begin putting that money to improve these facilities.
So again, and thank you, Dr. Plotnick, because when we bring rental rates back for next year, please understand that that's part of the vision and part of the why is to cover our costs, to set up long-term planning, and that all comes into play.
And I'm going to just wrap that around to that next bullet point is revenue streams. What are our restrictions? What revenue streams do we have? I mean, we have worked with our boosters to have a portion of the banners. But if you look at it, we are, again, grateful for our boosters. Most of our boosters run the concessions, and that goes to booster clubs. What revenue streams do we have? And again, comparing it to a college program, for example, you go to Sun Devil Stadium, who's getting the revenue streams from there? Correct. The NIL is coming. Mr. Gilmore can tell you in high school level. Yeah. But
if boosters are using the schools, our name, image, and likeness. That's what I mean with NIL. Where is the school getting compensated for that outside group, the booster, using the name, image, mascot?
Currently, we do have a portion. We asked for a portion of, if they advertise on our property, that we get a portion of that. But past that, that's that alignment we're talking about is there is a need, if they are taking those revenue streams, we also have to work closely with Mr. Gilmore on understanding what the needs of the program are to cover the costs of the program. So that's the struggle. And with so many boosters out there, they struggle as well, because if you think about the fall boosters, they're hitting up the businesses. So by the time spring, it's difficult sometimes for the spring to fundraise. So there's all of these little complications on there, but that is a question of how do we work together in order to understand, we need, let's just say, a new basketball court, and we need to replace that court. That's our capital money, and if we don't have capital money and the fundraising happens, we need those avenues to raise funds to replace the court, or how are we going to do it? I mean, we saw that with the football field. The football field, we knew it was coming due. There is no doubt it was coming due. So we had to find an alternative way to sit there and finance a football field so that these programs could thrive and these programs could survive.
And that is a warning just coming forth as well. Without additional revenue streams and all of that, we would be bringing you additional long-term payouts for whether it's tennis court improvements, track improvements, baseball, softball improvement. I mean, name it, volleyball or the gym improvements. Without additional streams, then we will perpetually be looking at how do we finance these things as opposed to covering it, which then it lengthens out the cost to make it a little more bearable long term, but then of course does cost more.
And part of it is, I will say 95% of our boosters are doing a tremendous job in respect to being transparent. There was a situation, it was last year or the year before, where there was a fundraising event, and it was for lights for one of our fields, but the district paid for the lights. So that kind of transparency, we need to make sure we're cooperating with these boosters. So it's clear that when people are donating money, it's to the boosters or it's directly to the school and what it's for. And Mr. Gilmore he has worked hours and hours and hours with these booster programs in order to make sure that alignment's beginning to occur.
So if a booster club member is out raising money for Cactus Shadows, whatever sport it is.
No. Part of the booster club is they cannot name after our high school. So oftentimes we'll allow a mascot, but it could be Falcon Booster, baseball boosters, for example.
Football is Shadows Nation.
Okay, so but if they can't use Cactus Shadows, they can use Falcon?
It's...
And so what happens if they are using Cactus Shadow's name?
If they're approved, every activity should be, fundraising activity should be approved by Mr. Gilmore, so he knows. So if they're out doing some fundraiser on the weekend, even if 100% of the proceeds are going to the booster program, that should be filed with Mr. Gilmore. Because if the last thing we want is somebody calling up and going, hey, I cut you a check for $500 for something for the football field, and I don't see it. We don't want that happening where we're not aware of what people are raising money for, or just going out there and using our name to use our name. So that's why part of this approval process is in place.
And ultimately, there are some things at the end of the year, turning in their financials, we'll look at. Again, we don't control their financials. We don't do any of that, but just in good faith, since we are partners. And again, I'll go back to my words of partnership and balance, and where do we find those things. If they choose not to function within the rules of being, then it will come before you that these people are no longer recognized boosters, and then we have to do things like cease and desists and things like that if they're not towing the line with what we need them to do and being a good partner. I think Rob has worked incredibly hard. I hope that nothing comes to that, but at some level, we have to hold them accountable again for whatever. If they're supposed to be giving us 20% of the banner sales that they do, and they're not, one, we either need to say we need that, or if they're not going to do it, then they're no longer recognized as the official booster club. Well, it is based on right now they're required to turn their statements over into the CFO. Dr. Penick's
They
office.
fill out paperwork, fundraising paperwork, and on there is our banners. We look at the photos. We want the artwork, what it will look like. I send them to Dr. Pletnick, and he replies back, good, no good, we'll fix this, here's how you do it. Send it back, get the artwork, get it back, get it proofed through Dr. Pletnick. So there's a consistency of knowing what banners are out there. We know all the banners that are put out on the football field are approved. The same banners are in the gym. They're smaller and they're mounted on the walls. They're approved as well. The biggest problem we had this year, just to let you know, is during the winter, during fall break, we had one booster club who got excited and created a 10% give back at a restaurant on the same night that another booster club was already doing a fundraiser at a different restaurant, and all hell broke loose. And I got the phone calls. So that was something that we put to rest, and it gave us the opportunity to discuss communication amongst all booster clubs, that this doesn't happen again. It gave us a forum to do that. That's been our biggest problem.
And I'd like to just kind of go on, align all stakeholders to understand the reality. Our booster clubs are one thing. We also have partners who use our facilities that are not boosters, that are little leagues, that are feeder programs and all of that. I think we need to look and we need to get into serious discussion with them. If they are selling sponsorship and putting sponsorship banners on our property, on our fields, then some of that should come to us as well. That's another piece, but again, that's really getting in, we've got good meetings that we're having with all of our boosters, but then we need to get out into all these other groups that are using our facilities. And again, there are facilities. They should not be able just to hang up a banner because they went and got $1,000 sponsor for this thing and they can throw it up on our property without some type of, again, kickback percentage, whatever that looks like. So there are some ongoing conversations that need to occur.
Several of the teams have longstanding fundraising things they do. So it draws from the pool of what the district would have as a fundraiser. And I'm just throwing out ideas that could come to mind. I mean, does the district need to be the purveyor of, what fundraising thing any one team can do? And
yes, and they are. Whether it's a booster club getting permission, or if I remember when girls basketball started doing poinsettias, during Christmas time, fundraisers have to go and get approved through the schools. So whether it's teams or boosters, those should all be communicated and known.
I have limited experience with fundraising because one of my kids did it and the other one didn't. But and not to pick on cheer, but that's the one I know about the most. They sell the ads in the program, and it's an expensive program. Trust me, I know how expensive it is. Like everything else. And that's just as an example. Okay, so every year they get to sell ads in the football program. Is it reasonable to, mix it up and some other sport gets to do that? Or, the district uses that as their fundraiser for, I don't know. I'm just asking questions to see if.
This is the challenge right now that Mr. Gilmore is working hard at now that we have several boosters instead of just one. We have several booster presidents who are, again, we cannot negate the work that these boosters are doing. We wouldn't survive. But the problem, and maybe you can answer that, Mr. Dolezal, but the problem that we face is, again, such good things. You talked about the poinsettias. How can we, as the district person and now Mr. Gilmore, say to girls basketball, it's someone else's turn. This has been such a great fundraiser for you. So no, that would be a tough pill to swallow. Additionally, I think maybe you were going here to a conversation we've had with us being such a small community. Anything that he and I try to do for the betterment of the whole athletics program potentially takes away from basketball, from football, from cheer, from whatever, because they're so established, which, again, we alluded to potentially when I get back to my position as director. We have some ideas for some direct donations and what have you, but we're really at a standstill right now with what we can do for the program in its entirety without taking away from these individual booster clubs.
Question. Is it per AIA that you have to provide transportation? Is that an AIA rule?
No, I don't think there's anything in AIA that says you have to provide transportation. And thank you for asking, because I would also like to point out with our driver shortage and all of those different things and how they can not always drive, some of the transportation becomes charter, which then increases the cost exponentially as well.
Yeah, because then we also have sports, which I was sad we didn't see with mountain biking because we had state champions on that this year. But I know it's a club, and I think our lacrosse works similar. How are you differentiating that? Especially, like I said, it's your students, they're involved in it, but they're not taking anything from any of these other funds. It's all parent funded. Parent has to provide transportation. And then also having a hard time understanding where I'm sure some sports bring in a lot of money and some do not. And I understand trying to be equitable across all of them, but being efficient with monies. To say you have a program that's barely breaking even, like how do you spread that across? Because mountain biking is the same. We made our fees the same, so it's the same for parents. But then if you're going to each race, if you're participating, you pay per race, or you can pay for the whole thing. And I think that'd be similar to a tournament fee. Do we look at ways to make it different, or it's like this is your fee and you're all in? But then you have cheer, which I know is probably the most expensive for any parent that has somebody that participates in that.
Well, where did that break out? Because you brought charter buses up. Like, who didn't pay the freight on charter buses? Because there is a misconception that some boosters are paying for the charter buses. That's either true or that's false. Also, too, with that is, to your point that you brought up, Dr. Buttick, is there's the illusion that everything is 100% paid for. In some cases, it's not an illusion. That's the way it's presented. So, where's that balancing act? Cheer, for example, is it 100% covered, or how much is actually being covered by the district? So,
Well,
getting that breakdown and being able to understand those levers where do you want to fall on the side of this? Like, I understand must be nices and have fun, good little tchotchkes and all that fun stuff, but there's like a balancing act, and if we just think we're going to raise our rate
For everybody.
for everybody across the board, like, that's a whole nother backward of ideas.
We can raise our rate across the board, and it's not going to put much of a dent in. And Mrs. Serino has gone through that exercise, and we raise it to 500. We're still not covering. Do you have the numbers of how much we did bring in for our pay-to-play fees?
Can you bring up the one financial slide? It's like about 25%, right?
About 25%. So our pay-to-play fees covered about 25% of our overall expenses. I'm going. There it is.
Okay, so gifts and donation and tax credit.
Mhm.
That is being plus or minus?
I'm sorry.
That's what we spent out of those accounts.
That's
So
the
you split all those
expenditures.
accounts.
Yes,
Okay.
these are all expenditures.
Right. And you're saying that tax credit and gifts and donations could be applied elsewhere. That's the argument you're making, correct?
No, right? I mean, I'm not any of these funds. We're splitting funds however we need to cover funds. Yeah,
But some is the parent funds, 256,000.
Well, the tax credit,
256,000 is the auxiliary. So that could be pay to play. That could be gate fees. Are those tax credits? Could be pay to play fees, which could be, or it could just be somebody going, I want to donate my tax credit to Cactus Shadows Athletics or Cactus Shadows Football.
and then when you got 61, 62, 63, 65, your top line numbers, when you're added down to the 867,000. You're saying that those two lines right there are people, transportation, basically. No, that's just people.
No, those are just people. Transportation would be, if it's private transportation, most likely in the 63 to 6,500. Our transportation in the 6,800. So if it's charter, if it's our own, that's why again it would be split between those.
6,800 and charters baked into the 60.
Typically, yes.
And then what's in 66 and 67?
Supplies typically, and then 67 could be equipment.
And then on tax donation credit, there is help me understand it. If their parent says, I'm donating this for cheer, it goes to cheer.
It goes to cheer.
You don't have an option on that.
Nope. Nope.
So of that, let's call it 199,578. How much was donated that was you didn't have control over? You had to do it.
We would have to pull each individual. Yeah.
Because the other piece of that could happen is if it was undesignated.
Yeah.
If we have tax credit that's undesignated, we can put it wherever, but
I'm just trying to see what leverage you're pulling.
Well,
Or
and
you have to,
and we can actually go back to the last board meeting where we had the tax credit report, and we could see on that tax credit report, we can pull up where's athletics.
have you broken it out? I mean, again, I understand this is work. And maybe you have, because you know I ask questions. Have you broken it out by program, what the offset is?
Mrs. Serino and Mr. Gilmore have worked on that.
Like what, yeah.
So,
so,
Programs are profitable or.
well, so, correct. We'll add,
yeah.
yep, we can add this to your Friday update.
What I'd also like in that update, if it's possible, is I'd like your vision of what you're thinking about as far as these things that you can't execute right now. It'd be cool to kind of maybe get an idea of those, because maybe someone can execute them for you.
So the direct donation kind of information on that? Okay.
It'd be great to see it. I mean, I'd like to say I don't want to just be a board member that just sits here and does this all day. I'd like to see if I can do some activity. It's the best part, right? Action.
Whose name can we put on?
I'm like, action is what this district needs. We just got to get to work, and it's like pulling every string. I'm sure the next round of what we have on the agenda is going to be even more fun. What are these ideas for cuts tonight?
I think communicating how, making parents aware that there really is a deficit when it comes to funding athletics is important, because there's a big, I think there's a big misunderstanding.
Well, I think, Mr. Gilmore, you had a really nice conversation with either the wrestling coach or something
It was a baseball booster.
that basically wanted to say, hey, and you laid it out, here are all the things, and all of a sudden it was like, oh. So yes,
They wondered, how are we, are people struggling look at it, and equates to 25% of our overall budget.
For some sports.
They just don't know. No, across our athletic program. Yeah, yeah.
I think really finding a really good way to communicate that so that parents understand that even though I'm paying this amount for my kid to play, it's not really, it's like the tip of the iceberg.
And again, I think this is why we're having this conversation, is we're pulling back those curtains. And that's one of my my big pieces. You need to understand just the struggles that are going on, especially as we're talking about topics coming up. There's no hiding. This is how much we spent. These are our expenditures for these programs. This is why we charge $335, which covers 25% of it. There's scarcity. There's only so much to go around, and that's why I think just showing you this and not hiding behind anything and everything's fine, but this is the reality for decisions that have to be made.
Have we thought about doing some type of like an athletic forum? Like you go FAC, you invite boosters, you invite parents, and kind of give the state of the union of athletics?
Well, we had talked actually about doing one of the next things was, okay, we need to get, you were first.
Yep.
But then getting in front of the boosters and sharing the same exact information, getting in front of some of our community partners that use facilities, sharing this information, because again, it's all about having a facilities that our community and ultimately our Falcons are proud, safe, able to use, move forward now and into the future.
Well, I just
So
think
yes, that's
even though-
next on the docket in terms of getting those next groups on board with this.
Yeah, I'm just curious, putting it in a forum status and trying to bring everybody into a house, because again, we're going to have these conversations one-on-one or in small groups, and that's fine, but it's like the frequency of this communication, these types of conversations need to be more than once, and they certainly, in this format, aren't going anywhere.
And at the end of the day, you have parents that are playing club sports, and know what fees are at other districts, and since you don't have bond to have your capital for these things or an override that includes all the salaries of these coaches, it's tough because they're like, well, I can go over there and my fee's $100. I mean, being a parent of 4, I'm always like, it costs me a lot of money to keep my kids involved in school. Obviously worth it, because I think that connection, whether it's a sport or theater, something, I mean, our family rules, you have to do something, but 4 walkers putting through clubs and sports is very expensive. So I think it's trying to find that balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get that stuff requested, connected to you guys on Friday.
Item 4.2, the fiscal year 26 and fiscal year 27 budget.
President Greer, members of the board, we're opening the floor to discuss the FY26, so I'll have Dr. Pletnick kind of give an update. We did it really in January, but numbers might be a little bit more known. Every pay period that goes by, every moment, it gets a little more clear to what the end of the year might look like. So, Dr. Pletnick, if you want to talk about FY26 and where we currently stand. Again, if you remember from the presentation in January, really important for us to hold costs where they are right now. The more we can stay under the approved budget number, that $29.6 million, the more we can stay under that, the better off we are.
Financially, update-wise, we have passed that 100-day. My next report came out with our ADM. It came out yesterday. So I was able to look as of January 15th, which I believe was 1 day within our 100th day. So we have a good idea of where we stand for our revenue control limit, our ADM funding. And a slight drop, not too terribly, but about $30,000 from what we thought. So we're still sitting right around 26.4 million in our revenue control limit for for fiscal year 26 as it stands. Remember, there's still the adjustment period over the summer. The good news is, it was announced yesterday there was a pause in the interval funding penalties, that where if a student was, after they passed, 10% of their year being absent, if they were absent for 10 consecutive days, they would remove that student's funding, at least for those days, from us. The state did pause that. That would have impacted us, not greatly, but there were about 4 to 6 students that it would have impacted us removing funding from. So that was a little relief from the state yesterday. But projection really hasn't changed from January at all. Our costs are holding pretty steady. We're just under 28.2 or 28.3 million. So we're that 28.3, approximate 28.3 million in January. We're still holding steady right about at that level. We do know there are going to be some expenses coming up, though. We have already, sitting down with various departments, there are going to be some expenses, especially on the special education side, that are going to surpass what we currently have encumbered. So I am expecting that number, that 28.3 million, to go up.
What spend increases?
Sped increases, part of it is grant funding, a decrease in expected grant funding that we had for one of our programs, that we're going to have to cover that amount with M&O instead of money from that particular grant.
Is this in relationship to the alternative school, or is this just spending?
No, not at all. No.
So this is just in general?
Yep.
So again, biggest thing that we are emphasizing with our schools, with our departments, with all of that is let's control costs this year. From the last presentation, if you remember, looking at this year's RCL, all of that, again, projecting out a 2% increase because that's everything we've seen. The last number Dr. Pletnick had was if we did not control costs, if we went all the way up to $29.6 million, then we're looking at a $3.8 million cut to get underneath what we anticipate being the RCL for next year. We control costs right now. We're looking at staying, again, if we can stay $1 million under, then that 3.8 turns into a 2.8. I'm sure the question on your mind then is, where is that 2.8 coming from? So let's walk down there. Realistically, again, comprehensive and balance. Those are the key words this evening. Most of that $2.8 million, it really comes from right sizing and staffing. We are overstaffed. Historically, we have staffed on a complete rollover model. Dr. Pletnick has proven himself very successful at projections and finding trends. So again, we are staffing at using his model in terms of, okay, what is the loss by cohort? What is the loss by grade level? What do we typically do? Follow those trends after COVID, and what does that look like? At that point in time, that is how we're staffing every grade level at every school. So we look at Black Mountain Elementary School. You're talking next year we need 3 less general ed staff members. We need 1 less PATH teacher and a 0.5 resource. So from Black Mountain, we're talking a $315,000 savings in those positions right there. And that, again, is just, it's putting us within our board accepted ranges of class sizes.
I was just going to emphasize that we're not raising class sizes by doing that. It's simply, if we only had 2 kindergarten classes coming in, typically we've had 3 teachers in kindergarten. Now we're only going to have 2 teachers in kindergarten. So we watch that roll up. No increase in class size, still within the range.
Right. And if there was only one class at kindergarten this year, but there were 2 in first grade, well, next year there's only going to be 1 in first grade. So that's how they're falling off. Right. Again, it's looking at the student population and matching student population to the staffing needs that are going along with that.
So they'll be served in the resource room when they need their specially designed instruction, and then in the gen ed classroom when they can handle it, and it's just a more flexible model. Yeah, we're basically dissolving as we know it. It's still going to be a level C placement for kids who need that.
And of course, that's when Dr. Pletnick talks about, unknown costs with SPED. Let's say all of a sudden you get an influx of students that require those services. We would then increase the allocation of positions for such services. So we build our model based on the students that are there, not the ones that we anticipate coming. Because if they don't come, we offer a contract to a teacher. We're now stuck with that contract for the teacher, even though we don't have students that fit that need.
And with the enrollment trends, where are you seeing kind of like take Black Mountain, take Ocean Trails? They're showing plus gain.
They're,
Is it washing between net in, net out? 'Cause I'm looking at like
Correct.
say the last one, Black Mountain was at 5 withdrawals, 12 enrollments. Now it's not coming in at the kinder level, which is the interesting part to me, is that there's a mid-throw that's happening in enrollment. It's not kinder. So we are seeing our elementary do something, at least two.
Couple of things to keep in mind looking forward at our kinder numbers. So if we look at, we look at our schools, what's moving out from fifth to sixth grade, and then what's moving up, that's key. But if you have a kindergarten of 65 at Black Mountain and another kindergarten comes in at 65, you're losing students there. As students move up, remember too, even if we add 1 or 2 students, the amount in a class begins to get bigger as the students get older. So a couple of students here and there, that is going to not necessarily mean another FTE that's added at that point. So if I'm going to be honest with you, if you want to project growth on our student count, I think we're looking in the wrong direction. We have seen a trend or a slight trend if we look at cohorts. We do see sometimes a little tick up. In the past couple of years, we've seen a tick up from, for some reason, kindergarten, no. First grade, we begin seeing a couple more students come. We're not talking massive amounts of numbers.
and
like
we're not
1%,
talking enough that's going to
2%.
require necessarily
Yeah.
another section of a class.
Like there are again, I'm saying things negative. There are some positives happening. I'm kind of understanding how those are going to track because you guys talk about this. Hey, there's kindergarten, it sucks, and then here's our graduating class. We're in the hole.
Our kindergartners are fantastic. The numbers might be struggling, but our kindergartners are fantastic.
Students are fantastic. Yeah,
Yes.
talk about that's positive. We just got to figure out how to land the plane because we can only live on students and seats.
Correct. And hence what this is doing is this is bringing us to a balance of board approved numbers. And yes, they will be at the high end. They will be towards that high end. And yes, principals have been told that they are not going to get another teacher until we see the whites of their eyes of all of those things. Because again, giving a contract and then at the beginning of the year saying, oh, I'm sorry, they did not show up, that's a much different problem and a much more difficult scenario. The unfortunate reality of where education is right now is that we're not the only district that's experiencing these things. I have been pleasantly surprised at the quality of applicants that we've gotten this year. I think, again, as more and more schools are unfortunately having to close, move, all of that, we are seeing the availability of teachers rise. Member Walker?
Is Kinder fully funded? I know that's been a
Kinder,
no, it's not.
Kinder
right?
is only half funded,
Half
correct.
funded. Okay. And probably
that was
because
an
there's
ex-
so many preschools here, and with ESAs, we can cover Kinder. I think that's why you might see a big tick from Kinder to first.
Well,
You
it's
know,
not from
traditional
kinder to
Montessori.
first. It's from first grade.
No, kinder to first,
to first, you
we see a slight
little.
percentage bump up.
Right.
Or we have over the past few years. We've seen 1%, 1.5%. 1 year there was a 10% tick up, but again, we're talking 10% of a very small number.
Yeah, yeah. As a community, the preschools that have been here a long time are the Montessoris, and traditional Montessori, kinder is part of that preschool. So, and now if it can be subsidized,
Yep.
might as well leave your kid there.
But I mean, if you look
But
at
then
it-
again, we did, at one point, we experimented and we went to only funding and only having half-day kindergartner, and that did not work out well, and that is not something I would ever bring as a recommendation.
Yeah, in our kinder classes, in 23, 247 kinders, 24, 201, 25, 222, this past year, 156.
So ultimately, I passed around a sheet that's kind of going over here. So again, you can see the amounts. Horseshoe Trails is another 3 general ed. There's a cost. Desert Willow, again, we're talking 3 general ed. We're also looking at funding formulas and making sure in terms of front office staff, what is required for how many students you have and those types of things. So that 0.6 to 0.5 is really special areas. So really making the elective teachers 0.5 there. Behavior, that's not a position that we've had staffed all of there. The recommendation actually we have is that based on size, we've got a counselor who is at, again, thinking comprehensive. I do not think we're comprehensive schools if we do not have a counselors at our elementary schools. So we've got a counselor who's 4 days a week at Black Mountain, 1 day serves Desert Willow, another counselor 4 days a week at Horseshoe Trails, 1 day at Desert Willow. So again, and that proportionally, we're not going to let them go on Fridays, but proportionally really works out to that's the percentage of students based on that service. So ultimately, there's an $821,000 savings at the elementary. Soaring Trails and Cactus Shadows are where we see a lot of the most staffing. So we're talking 10 general ed, 10 teachers at both the high school and the middle school. The ESS teacher at Sonoran Trails, that's actually a contracted special education teacher, so that's why that number's higher, because that actually does cost us more. So again, you're getting the $800,000 savings there. Looking at the general ed teachers there, also moving away from 3 assistant principals at the high school and turning one of the assistant principals into a dean who's really over discipline, taking that off of the plates of the other assistant principals. And having that person focus on there. Again, a small savings, but at this point in time, we're looking for anything. So moving an AP to a dean is about a $25,000 savings. And then our PALS program, just from a numbers standpoint, we're reducing there. Still having a PALS program, but we only need 1 teacher to actually, with the number of students in the program.
So AP to a dean, that's just
That's an assistant principal to a dean. So that's an assistant principal's salary to a dean's salary is about a savings about $25,000. The
kind of what like chaperone for
Yeah. Yeah.
right. Oftentimes a dean is called a TOA, a teacher on assignment. So it's we're actually going to go for someone who has their certificate. Deans are oftentimes your foot in the door to administration. And oftentimes, yes, they are teachers, and this is their first job out into the administrative world. So it is their teacher salary and then a stipend as a teacher on assignment typically. But again, you're looking at something that's typically coming in at about $25,000 savings.
And it's a shorter work calendar as well. They
Right.
don't work a 10 or 11-month calendar like they would as an assistant principal.
How do we align versus other districts when it comes to some of the reorg structure, even population? Their population is small. I think there's like 35
Well, I would work it more so about 1,100 high school students. Oh,
just hear me out.
go ahead.
From a district level, when we look at our total population, you want to break it down by school, that's fine. But like how we're targeted from a principal, assistant principal, how many do we really need? District, like if you start breaking it down based on the size of our district, yes, we're making these decisions, and ultimately, we do have some concerns, like when we're cutting 10 general ed out of Cactus Shadows, just given the year that we've had as a parent. Okay, I mean, curious to see how this plays out.
Well, and Vice President Moore, I will quote you in terms of saying, cut deep and let's go, and let's get to the point that we need to be at. So again, these are within our staffing numbers, and these are running the programs, staffing programs, and we can talk about, if you want to talk implications of those cuts in programs as well. We can get into that. I was going to do that after we went through the entire thing, but we can. Well, to answer your question about how we compare, I will tell you, high schools our size, they either do 2 and a dean or they do 3 APs. I mean, that's what we've seen. It's either or. Again, Member Walker, you bring it up all the time. Those places typically have bonds and overrides that are going along with all of that stuff too. So as we're looking at functioning without those, as we examine, okay, what are we going to do? Then to us, it makes the most sense to say, okay, well, we're going to go with this 2 and a dean because we still need the support. We still need those people to do those functions. But that gets us to a better place than 3 APs. So every school has a principal. So yes, so the high school would be a principal. So right now we have 3 APs. This is one of the APs going to a dean. So you still have your principal, you still have 2 APs. The 4th person on that team is no longer an AP. They're a dean. And typically when you go to deans at a high school, that dean becomes really their primary focus is the discipline on campus.
So once you stabilize back discipline principal, you're going to pull back Jill, obviously, and Aaron. Because you have 3 right now from BO down to 1.5. How are you Jill?
I mean, Jill is there and the other 2 are going down as needed and for support and things like that, right?
We're working on different projects. Erin's very in charge of working with Mr. Schnee with the master scheduling, things like that. So she's a little bit more involved intimately this year than she has in the past. So they're popping in to kind of do more supports in some of those project areas. Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? They'll pull back.
Correct.
Roll out however this looks.
But at our size, you're saying we should still have a principal, 2 APs, and a dean, still have 4 at only 1,100 students?
That is typical for schools that size across the valley. And yeah, as I talk to superintendents and Dr. Hendrickson talks to HR compatriots.
Yeah, that is pretty typical, especially when you're looking at a high school where, you saw Mr. Gilmore, athletics is a full-time job for him. And typically it's at a 12-month position, and he's still at an 11-month position, things like that. And then with the assessment and the amount of assessments that we have going on, so typically you have people specialize in certain areas that is a full-time job, along with evaluating, coaching teachers, discipline as well. So it's just restructuring it.
Chemicals
So.
would be pretty good right now, aren't they?
I'm not sure what they're at right now.
I want to say last time I checked, it was a principal and maybe 2 APs.
Is typical the
Like
same as critical? And
triple.
I'm not looking to
Yeah.
anybody's job, but you know what I mean? Sometimes, well, that's how we've always done it. It's typical like this, but when you do start getting super lean, is it critical?
Well, I would say these positions are critical in that, unlike a large comprehensive district, these administrators are in charge of a lot of the professional development that goes on, a lot more intimately involved with the coaching that goes on, because we do not have a curriculum and instruction department that is pushing down to provide support. So they do wear more hats than you would at like a Pinnacle, where may not have as many. But where I came from, I didn't have to plan anything in my professional development. I called that department. I said, this is what I want. They showed up. Coaches showed up. They did it all for me. Here, our principals are in charge of all those things, so they do wear more hats. So yeah, it is critical that and I think I would recommend any of you spending time with Jill and the amount of work that team is putting in. To reduce any more would.
Yeah, I would say it
very
was
hard.
critical. And Member Elmer, I will also say this is a step in right sizing and to continue to evaluate. And should the high school continue to get smaller, then there may be a time when it is appropriate, when it is time that maybe it is only one principal. But at this size, when we're talking over 1,100, over 1,000 even, yes, I do believe it's critical.
If you're going to move 1 AP to a dean position, why not move multiple dean positions?
because they do still require this certification with the work that they do as far as evaluations, as far as some of the decision making and authority that they're given. So they do have that certification with ADE, and you're not going to find quality APs that are willing to work as deans. That becomes a struggle with finding good leaders to kind of member Moore's.
Right, you're cutting your teeth, you're getting your experience, and then moving into an assistant principal role.
And that's putting someone to a dean and you're hoping somebody stays and takes that essence. Because that's a counterpunch to what you said. Well, fine, if you're going to take an AP and live with a dean, like, that person may be like, I don't know.
Could be, for sure. And that's part of the, as we do the right sizing, we've had those conversations knowing that we're having to reduce positions just like we are with staffing positions in the classrooms to align with the enrollment. And so they're aware that, we will have to make some critical decisions down the line with them.
Has there been any consideration looking at like schools that touch themselves and maybe moving to one principal over multiple points and then giving them the right amount of support because then that can adjust financially as well?
I think it goes.
Creative and a little unorthodox and based on how education runs, but at the end of the day,
I do think it's possible when you have wraparound services and support from a district level that can provide all those other things. And I just go back to our principals wear lots and lots of hats, and they're required to do more than they would in any other district when we have a capacity at a district office and a curriculum department that can do that. So without having those wraparound supports, a principal having to oversee multiple sites, we're not going to have anyone that would want to step into that role. I guarantee it.
I don't know if that's the person we want though. The leftover? Who has no other options?
no, I'm just saying that at the end of the day, this is the simplistic approach to things. It's not going to get you the answers that you want. The other thing is one of those things is just going to lead you to the call. That's it. Meaning, I'm not saying that you can't give people the resources that they need because if you eliminate a high value position, you have funds. So you reduce some. It's no different than forecasting the number. You're going to say, hey, we're going to hit a net 40% loss. That's not 100% recognition. You don't get to recognize 100% of that money. It's still there's an offset to it. So if I'm able to go and say, hey, I'm going to make one principal over two sites, I have that principal role that was already there. I can take those funds and then I can reallocate half of that to proper resource and give them the things that they need, and then take the other half and put it towards the bottom line, and you start restructuring things.
Or in an argument on that, essentially, you could, if you're going to relieve your principals, you just relieve all your principals and hire new principals in at a lower dollar cost would be essentially what you would be saying.
Not necessarily. I'm not saying that you don't reward them. You can't just be like, hey, you're going to do this and make the same. You're trying to figure out how you can balance your what you're trying to do is just balance your financials a little bit and then build underneath that. Because at the end of the day, what you need is, just got that saying, you need more doers than you need chiefs. Because at the end of the day, those functions are due. So it's trying to find that balance. It's also looking at like, hey, what roles, instead of just having a district office, how can district office be more ingrained to certain sites and help them get? If we're chasing number two, my 1-2 punch is Snorer Trails, that's what all we're doing. Because if we can plug that and turn it around, do that. So in some cases, we're cutting, but we're also not looking at how we
I'm also just a little bit concerned with the amount of, gosh, I want to say it's close, 800, almost $1 million for sped. When then I see when we have to backfill those with like contract when they're not there. How are we going to balance that?
A lot of that is overstaffing. We're grossly overstaffed in special education related services. Our attorneys will tell you that our special education attorneys that work with districts our size, they say they have one psychologist. We have 5 currently. We're reducing to 2. So, and it's looking at service minutes and looking to make sure, based on the number of work with Ms. Gregory, the number of evaluations, reevaluations that we have, when you look at the number of kids that need to be serviced, we are getting to a number that we are actually, with the workload that's required of those positions and the number of kids needing those services, we're balancing those out correctly. So although it does look like a big chunk, number one, they're higher paid positions, but number two, we're just staffing appropriately with what the models are to best service those kids. So it is a big number, but I will say, when we're looking at other departments too, and looking at finance department, HR department, we have some other things that we're still working through of cutting additional cost at the district level to even increase that cut closer to the bone as well. But in terms of just sped right there, it's not cutting to reduce services. We're going to be able to maintain the services we have. It's just staffing to what the correct model is and the amount of work those individuals can do.
How many OTs do we have? Because I know currently, like, my daughter's OT is a contract person that she gets. So I wouldn't think this would be in the salary here.
So we currently have 3 OTs.
Okay. That's, okay. Okay.
And then how does that play into the revenue chase that we were trying to do for the alternative learning school? Because we were trying to get these students that had needs going away from us. Now we're cutting, but we said we were going to get this.
We're just reallocating them. So, I mean, yeah, we're cutting some of these, but there will be somebody who's, so I think it was last board meeting, we approved 2 positions. And so 2 of them, one will really be in charge of making sure that we have the right, we're following the right protocol for having students come in and come out of that program. And so really making that program more efficient and more robust as it grows. And then the other one really doing a lot of evaluations, making sure our MTSS processes at all of the schools are being followed and all of that.
So we're really cutting 629,000, or are we
No,
Yep. No.
we're really cutting that.
well, then we're going to add back by approving those?
No, so those roles
Nope.
were 2 of the people. Right now we have 5, we're cutting 3, so that's 325,000 savings.
The job requirements of those 2 are shifted.
So they're no longer just going to be testing. They're going to be doing more leadership roles, honestly. We've already realized a lot of that. I'm actually getting numbers, and so we'll bring that to you soon, but we've brought back a lot of those private placements.
Yeah. So I know they had changed some of the model of how they were servicing, and so that's part of why. And we were projecting for over 900 kids, and we ended up, I think next year is supposed to be
750.
717 to 1756 is what we're projecting next year. So we're down 150 close to kids, and so part of that is. Looking at the students that are rolling up, 8th grader going away, 6th graders coming in, it is just saying, okay, if you have X amount of students, they get this much on their caseload. We only need 3 teachers for next year. We don't have the same amount of students that would need 4 teachers for next year. So.
Right now, are they separated by grade or by subject?
I think, yeah.
Largely by grade, but there's a floater who has to pick up the extras in other grades.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, so somebody is having to pick up those minutes for the other kids. But it really depends on the service of that child, because some of them are in an essential skills classroom, and they're getting theirs there. No, it could just be somebody who's pushing into a classroom for part of the class period, providing that specially designed instruction, and then pushing over to a different classroom and providing that specially designed instruction. So there's kind of multiple models that we have to keep in place because it depends on the needs of the kids.
Yeah.
Some of them need, this is my time, it's quiet, I've got this 50-minute period, and then others, they don't want a separate class. They still want their 2 electives. Don't mess with that. I just need somebody to check my planner because I can't organize myself, and or whatever it may be.
there's some kids with only 60 minutes a week of servicing they need, but then we're servicing them 5 hours a week. And so if they're in an essential skill, so it's also matching the service that is required by that student's IEP to meet those goals, to make sure that's aligned with the courses that we're putting them in.
And just looking, and I did this really quickly, and just when I look at our B weighted, remember that's our special ed weighted for our ADM. At the end of last year, after I take out the non-special ed, the gifted, the free and reduced lunch weighting, we were somewhere around 530, let's just roughly 530 ADM. Just looking at our last report, we're like 470. So as we're seeing that drop in enrollment, we are seeing a drop in those students who are B weighted at least. So I would really have to go to Ms. Gregory and talk about the actual head count of students who have those needs.
After, you have your IEP being like, okay, your child's doing much better here, you no longer get this, it's less minutes, when do you lose? How does that
There's
rating
thresholds,
switch?
so if you go, it depends on how much time, so there are thresholds.
Yeah.
So if they're going down,
They're like, oh, now we've actually done this much, and now we're not above the mean.
Correct.
Those numbers aren't really true. I mean, it's not.
but it's also based on their disability.
That's why I'm saying this is based upon what we get weighted for each special ed. So if eyes drop, which that though should equate to service minutes and the need to have more lessons.
But the other numbers are different, right? The one that was coming out of the alternative, what was that number? Originally, we were paying out a high amount of money because they had to go elsewhere. So what did we actually recapture? That's a separate bucket. Is what I'm understanding. I'm trying to understand, like, are we winning or are we losing? We're doing a lot of things.
Well, and I can tell you that as these are the other handout, the ML.
Oh, that one? He's talking about the ones up here.
Well, looking at our current M&O expenditures, let me bring it up. No, the breakdown one, I don't know if we got it.
I'll get you that breakdown for the private placements of what we were paying and how many of those we brought back. It's a big number, and it's much smaller. And some of those students on that number would pay for a full teacher. So, like, if we were paying $60,000 to privately place a student, we have employed a teacher who's serving 2 to 3. So all we had to do was pull back 2 to 3, and we're winning by that.
So we're paying that out of which bucket? I wasn't.
Oh, and part M&O, IDA grant, so it was part of all that.
Especially once your Fed funding dropped in half that 1 year, and then state
No,
funding
it was
dropped.
a significant number, so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I can give you, and I don't have, when you look at the M&O, it lumps 200 and 300 together, which is special ed, but that contains CPE too. So there's some CPE selling, not much, I would say about 160,000 of this, but if you look at our spending of 200 and 300 as of right now, last year our AFR said we spent 6.165 million in that category of M&O. As we stand right now, we're at 5.68. So, we're $500,000 better right now in that particular area. So, is there can there be more cut? Yes, as we get more kids. And remember, we're past 100 days, so if we get new kids in, we keep zero funding for those students. We do have a few new students coming in that we're going to receive zero funding for, but and we're going to have to hire some staff for it. But right there gives us a quick snapshot.
Yep, no, I just want to see what we're doing. Next question I have is on the 3.1 million. What crossover impact is there to programs?
So, I mean, the high school's the worst because at those elementaries, that's not a big. I mean, it's a big deal, but it's not a big deal.
Middle school and high school have.
So,
Say Janet.
and the high school then trickles down to our middle school programming. But the middle school, I have children there. They have lovely small classes right now. It's wonderful. So they just won't experience that next year. And yes, some teachers will have harder assignments. At this point in time, I don't see us needing to remove full-blown programs or completely cut some things other than, well, let's start with high school. So the major,
Let's talk about comprehensive again. So what is a comprehensive high school? And bear with me. That's President Moore. Because that's what it comes down to. It is, as we look at these course requests that come in, let's start with world language. We have
Spanish, Mandarin, and French. And we currently have signed up for Mandarin, for Mandarin 1, 11 students. So if I start those students, I want to commit and see those students through, because students require 2 years. If we're going back to our 3 E's, if I was to say that's the most essential thing for comprehensive high school, we need to offer the 3 E's. 2 years of a world language would be one of those E's, that's enroll. So if I were to start those 11 students into Mandarin 1, I would want to see them through at least Mandarin 2. But looking at Mandarin 2 through 4 and IB Mandarin, we have 19 students total in those other ones. So total, I had 30 students sign up for Mandarin.
that's 2, 3, 4.
How many teachers, though, do you have teaching Mandarin for all those different levels?
One, but we had a 0.6. And if I'm looking again at staffing, at some point we have to cut something. So right now I'm looking at a 0.2 for something along those lines, which would mean talking to those Mandarin 1 students and saying, hey, it's not going to work out for you. We need to choose another language. I can't continue to sustain a program. I can't have a teacher for 11 kids, which next year would be 9 or 7 or whatever it might be. And unfortunately, that's not something we can continue at this time. So sad, but
And as a comprehensive high school, we need to offer a world language. So and that's Mandarin. French is about the same.
French is in the same boat. So we have 10 students in French 1, and then we have 27 for French 2, 3, 4, and IB French, the largest being French 3. So again, I have to look at those 10 students and say, is it in your best interest, and looking at their years and where they're at in their high school career, to take French here or somewhere else, or take Spanish, like move yourself over to Spanish.
What's Spanish's numbers?
Spanish's numbers, so Spanish 1 has 131 students, Spanish 2, 182, Spanish 3, 108, AP, 20, Spanish 4 is 46, Spanish capstone is 15, IB Spanish for juniors is 22, for seniors is 7. So, a lot. I can add all, let me drag. That's 531 students in our Spanish program, compared to 30 in the Mandarin. I would like to say that French is different at the middle school. It's not much different. And we've been trying to honor it for our DSA students because they had immersion. And this is where we need to speak with the teacher to determine what's in her best interest as well. But we would like to offer French 2 for them, or French B is what we call it at the middle school for them, if we can pull that off. If we have a teacher who wants to teach 1 period a day there and 1 period a day at the high school, is basically what that looks like for that person. So,
And then we also need to explore avenues such as Edgeability or things like that, which is an online platform. We had our Snow and Trail students do it a couple of years ago when we lost a teacher in there. So it is a Chinese teacher that's through this. But what are the different ways that we can potentially, again, as Dr. Jensen said, in order to honor those people that have already started it, certainly want to go another year. So again, our Mandarin students either get 2 years to where they can enter into a university. Or then what does that look like in terms of if there's these other options here? But moving forward in terms of starting with 11, is that what it was?
11 for Chinese and 10 for French.
So is online an option?
It is, but it's pay by student, but it is cheaper than a 0.2 teacher. I mean, at that number of students, I could pay.
I'm just trying to throw like creative. Just,
Correct, and that is what we're needing to looking into, what are creative ways to get around these things so we can, so when we sit with the families and go, here here are the options.
I mean, it gets you past the point of just saying we're killing it and we don't offer it. It's at least saying, hey, we have a path based on demand. Here are our options.
So that gives us what, one teacher, or maybe 2 out of these 10 gen eds?
Well, okay. Some of them are easy to come by because, again, if we have less freshmen, we need less freshman English classes. So like 1.6 English, 1.6 science. Each of the cores are going to give me 0.8 to 1.5, roughly, depending on where they're at. So that's a few right off the bat. Some other areas where we're going to run into issues, and we are trying to cut deep and cut hard to get to these 10. And I'll be honest, I'm at 8.8 right now, and I feel like I've gone super deep.
Well, and let's talk about what we know. If you see the total number on here, the total number at the bottom says 3.1. The goal was 3.8. Saving $1 million is 2.8. So again, we've cut deeper into this thing. Like, this is where we need to get to. Again, remember, there are other needs. If we can save here at M&O and we don't need to bring as much capital over next year, then we have capital funds for all of the different things that we've talked about and all those needs that are going to come there. So again, we are looking at it. Does this provide us a little bit of a cushion to where someone might be able to come back to us and justify, hey, you know, we will need this, or we do see that we need this later? It does perhaps, but again, we're looking at setting this up to best move forward. If we can get to the 3-1, we didn't talk about district's office. There's another one we're looking at. Can we go in terms of, you know, with our CTE director and things like that? Are there different ways that we can manipulate that position to get an additional savings at the district office as well? So again, still working on. But this is in terms of getting us where we need to get to and setting us up on the best path forward. Yeah.
And
So these were language programs, but what other programs? From like when we got that list last year for closing schools? I feel like it's coming back.
coming
Even
back.
though it was like, do this and we don't have this. So,
Well, and also real quick, a lot of these adjustments that we're making, as Dr. Judge was saying, even in the English, these are adjustments we've made every single year. Every year we make those adjustments based off enrollment. So
yeah,
Right.
but this gen, I guess I don't think it's
So,
gen ed is.
and in terms of program, I mean, there's one program that we need to talk about, but let's go through just, so English, math, science, social studies, easy. It's not easy. I don't want to say it's easy. We're going to have classes of 38 kids, so it's not easy, but it's going to happen. Fine arts, 0.6, which is 0.2 in the choir. We had wanted to offer 2 choir classes. We only have enough kids for 1, so 0.2 there, 0.2 for dance, and 0.2 for theater was the fine arts area. Would be reductions, which isn't going to kill a program, but it is starting to make it difficult to recruit new people. Theater teacher to come teach 0.6 and do all of the other things, that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow.
Wait, they're all 0.6 or they're all 0.2 sharing?
We're cutting 0.2, which is making some of them to a 0.6
based on the number of kids that are signing up.
for their class. And that one of those classes is like teach theater 2 through IB. Like, we're going to call it advanced theater. So beginning and advanced. Fine arts, PE 0.6, just based off of number of students. We're reducing 0.6. Again, just based off a number of students. It's not cutting a program, as far as I would say. And then electives, we need to cut 0.8. And when I'm looking at what those electives entail, it's nothing huge, but it is where you start to get into all these little things that are adding up. AP Comp Sci, we don't have enough kids signed up for it, which is AP Computer Science. Then truly this is where then we get into the conversation about IB. And so we need to look at the costs of IB, the benefits of IB, and I mean, we can talk about the facts on both sides of it. What I would like, as long as I'm sitting in this position, is I don't want to take the rug out from a kid midway through any program. So I would like to say, when we are going to make that decision, if we're ever going to make that decision, that we would let our sophomores know so they don't start at their junior year and then say, hey, you took those really hard classes and really worked hard, and now we're not going to give you the opportunity for your diploma, your IB diploma. And so if that's something that we need to do, we kind of need to do it, and it's a 2-year process. It's not a 1-year process. So a couple of
Sunset it, so it would be.
see
it
the
would
kids
be
out.
Our current juniors, our rising juniors, we would continue offering
Right.
in order
But
to get
our
them
current
through.
sophomores are the ones that we kind of built the honors program at the middle school to feed that program 4 years ago and haven't started yet.
Right. Well, and that's where like looking at some of the actual data to say, okay, so this year, Mrs. Thomas tells me we're going to have 8 students earn their diploma. Next year, there's more in the pipeline, which we never quite know until they actually do it. I mean, it's always hard because they're kids. They change their minds. The seniors? That'd be great. It messes up a lot of things. It does mess up.
But also too, like, I will tell you this, especially going through some of the processes that we've gone through as a board lately, and having outsiders come in and talk to you, one of the biggest things they say, and I understand the cost, we're probably gonna get the numbers, because Dr. Bartlett's digging for gold right now, is that that's an attractor. Even though the numbers don't line up, like, in a favorable way, to some extent, to where you're trying to draw it to you, sometimes perception is the greatest attraction. And so, and I get it, we're gonna have to make decisions and we gotta play with numbers, but we keep dancing around IB and I'm like, that is a.
Well, so let's stop dancing and let's actually go with, okay, we know a certain cost, okay? We know that, what does a comprehensive school in Cave Creek need to have in order for that? I would sit here and argue till the day is long. We absolutely have to have programs for our academic high achievers. Okay, so without question, we need those programs. Currently, early college, dual enrollment, AP, IB. Looking at the numbers of enrollments in all of those things, looking at the cost of those programs, ultimately, looking at where we're at, IB would be the recommendation in terms of what can we do, what can we still offer and finish out for the kids who have started that program, and what can we push those kids in who are looking into the pipeline, the sophomores that have started, and they've started honors. Can they be successful in AP? Can they be successful in dual enrollment? Can they be successful in early college if that's the direction they want to go? So absolutely, in terms of a comprehensive high school, we cannot get rid of all of those.
Correct.
But what can we,
But
what
how
can
many
we
high
do?
schools have that versus offers dual enrollment versus AP? Not that many have IB. Everybody has AP.
Why?
Yeah, because it's
Very
fast.
cold water.
Yeah.
We're struggling for enrollment, so they're probably gonna be. I mean, that's what we have to look at. Just, I'm gonna bring it to, and I'm not saying one way or the other with any program, but look at our dual enrollment, our dual language programs. It was a trend, like you're looking at the Mandarin immersion programs, you're looking at the Spanish immersion programs. Are people still enrolling? I can tell you, language programs across the U.S., there's a drop in numbers. So I think part of it is studying overall across, are these programs successful, on the larger scale at this point, or, I mean, was it a flavor of the day? I can't answer that question. I don't know enough about those particular programs. But I think that's part of the question that has to be asked. How many, do we lose kids to very cold water with an IB program, or do they stay at Cactus Shadows? Do we have open enrollment to the IB program? Does anybody come from out of district and enroll for that program?
Do we tell anybody?
But I mean, those are the things to explore.
Well, the other piece is let's just go back this one. When was the last time you actually talked to the consumer? Do we really know what the consumer wants? We're making decisions on what we think we want. We're not going out to, we put the student, but it's the parent. Where's the conversation with the parents? and going, what is it? What does the ideal educational footprint look like for you that would make you want to go to any school in Arizona? What is that thing?
And I don't disagree with you on that at all. I think
And we don't have the
we got a
answers.
smidgen of that when we got that survey back in December, which said we don't offer enough for the non-honors kids. If we look back to that survey, we're serving our highest population according to that survey, but where were we lacking? The other alternatives.
So the great
So
question. So
then-
what does that mean? Then we go back and follow up and go,
That's where I think the digging happens. I mean,
and we don't
I
need to pay a
agree.
consultant for that. You have the voice. You have a vocal community. We're not that big. We're 3,000 students. It's not like a, oh my God, this is something that's going to cost us a lot of money. We spend a lot of time on it.
sometimes have the most vocal, we have to be careful.
That's always a game, but there's a way to get to the information. I feel like sometimes we're guessing, and even this is still somewhat of a guess because we went through two school closure last year. We're like, oh, we should be okay. And here we are again. We're going to be here again next year too.
Year after.
It's going to be a constant.
I'm going to, in a declining enrollment, and if we track and make upfront in this, let's track districts like Fountain Hills, declining enrollment. Right? I mean, so that becomes a question of, if you know, I read the trends in the kindergarten class, and it was off the first grade, the highest was 5.9%, cohort that we gave from kinder to first. But if you look at that, where we're bringing in, we're graduating 300, and the highest we brought in was 250, losing 60 kids minimum there. This year was 150. If that trend continues, you are looking at people, you look at the news, where we were just on the news, and we're one of the highest districts with enrollment levels. And if you look at that, if this trend continues just from the graduating class to kindergarten, you're going to guarantee yourself 300-400 loss every single year. There is no option.
Well, I mean,
So that's really.
there is some level of an option. It's really understanding how do you create the hook.
And
And not doing what
if
everybody
we
else is
had,
doing.
I would tell, and I would argue with you, Member Moore, there are many districts having the same conversation. Not one has figured out a hook yet. So, yes, could there be a hook out there? Absolutely, but I don't think it's a simple solution. Or else somebody in public
Because
education.
what hooks
If it was
what hooks you is different than what hooks you, and what hooks me and what hooks you.
But what do we know? What do we know? What do we know?
We have a declining population enrollment right now.
Okay, ESA's on the rise, right? So people are trying to figure out how to create an education their way. Meet them where they're at. We're open, thank you. Meet them where they're at. You can't afford to offer everything, but what you can do is again, to your point, there was some gold in that survey. Did you activate that gold? If you activate the gold, you can start seeing those trends readjust and redo. It's no different than going and saying, hey, we did an alternative school because we wanted to go get back this money. Now we got $500,000 this year. Okay, that's a W. You're moving in the right direction. Can you get $1 million next year? Well, I don't know. Let's figure it out.
Okay, to that point, you've got, we were on how to use this, you've got dual enrollment, AP honors.
Well, we added a lot of stuff in there, yeah.
You got a lot for the highest achievers. The survey said the middle of the road kids don't have as many options.
But what are those options, though? First, we don't even know what those options mean.
Well, IB diplomas are 8, but certificates,
60-something getting certificates? I know you just sent it, I don't have it at my fingertips.
yeah, I
know
can
you
pull
do.
it. Angela probably,
We saw a little dip in enrollment, but overall, we have about 70 kids taking IB classes between the junior and senior class. So of those 70, are they all on track to, or are they just taking, are they one-offs taking classes? Yeah. Okay, so.
Getting a certificate.
they get their
They
certificate.
have a full day senior year. And so is there something else that we can do to bolster what's often in fact shadows? I would eventually.
What's the cost?
I know the concept.
So cost-wise, if we're looking at cost, and there's, the way I look at it is, knowing this was coming up, I said, well, if we're gonna look at numbers on it, I need to know how many kids, how many sections, like, if there's an IB that's split with AP, like normally, if there's just one IB section, it's 0.2 for a teacher, but if it's split between AP and IB, that's only 0.1. So it was really,
And Dr. Putney, before you go on, that's a great point that I just want to stop for a moment and talk about, is the tax that we put on our teachers who are teaching AP, IB, HL, IB, SL, and I'm sorry if I got that, the two IB, like, they're teaching combined, and then maybe an honors on top of that, or a level 4. And what we've done in trying to get them to do AP physics with IB physics, we are fortunate that we have such amazing kids, because the tax that goes on the teachers trying to actually differentiate and do similar curriculums, and similar is the closest I will get to even come close to saying, and I don't know if that's necessarily even the best word for it. Yes, they are high-level physics classes, but they are not identical curriculum. And the tax that goes on, that we're asking our teachers to do, is another thing that's an unseen cost.
No, those are all fair points, that's what I'm saying.
But if
There's
you
a-
want to push a program, why even offer AP if you're going to have dual enrollment? To me, that's the same thing. You're either taking the test to get the college credit, or you just take the dual enrollment. Where IB is a totally different philosophy. Like, why even offer an AP version and not just offer IB? For
But
those
doesn't
that
one
want
require a
bigger?
different type of teacher though too? 'Cause you have to
Correct.
have a master's in
So
dual
different
enrollment?
certifications. So if you're a dual enrollment, you need a master's degree in the content area. And we don't have enough of those to be able to offer a lot that would get us, that's a hard ask of our teachers, to have their masters
So dual
in the
enrollment's
content
a
area.
question mark now.
So there's dual enrollment, and then there's AP, which I might argue, yes, it may not be as deep as IB, because the IB, most of the classes are 2-year courses. So it's, you take physics, SL, physics, HL, then you take the test, then you get your certificate. Whereas AP Physics, you take AP Physics 1, and you can take your test after the end of AP Physics 1 and get your college credit, and then be done. Or then you could choose to take AP Physics 2 if you're really like that and want to take AP Physics 2. Or you could choose to take, we would love someday to offer AP Bio. We didn't have enough students sign up for it this year. But like AP Bio would be another option. So the AP allows you to go broader. The IB is going to push you and require you to go deeper. Might be a very simplistic way to put it.
And what's the cost of dual enrollment?
The parents pay for it.
Parents pay for it.
$400 a semester.
$400, you get your college credit if you pass the class.
That section exists whether you're paying for the college credit or not.
Yeah, to the district, it doesn't
It
cost
doesn't
us.
cost us anything.
Senior
So
English,
to get the
yeah.
teacher that has to have a all it doesn't cost us anything.
We actually make money off of dual enrollment, yeah, in essence. Yeah. So IB, you need the training for the teachers, and then the one other thing, and one of the reasons I want to, like, us to discuss this for this year is because we need to get our recert, or that version of it, for next year. And so that's a process that we have to go through, and that's more money that we need to pay out to get that recertification. And so it is timely, because again, if we're going to say we're sunsetting it, then I don't want to go through the process. If we're going to say let's do it, then I need to get the new principal trained. I need to get other people trained. We need to get the teachers trained, like all of the people trained, and the research done, so that we do it well. I don't want to do it limping along. Yes.
But once, I'll just take theater, because that one I can speak great on. For IB theater, when the theater teacher changed, it was like, oh, no problem, he's gonna do it in the summer and he'll be IB certified. So, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a.
Yeah, but then it didn't happen.
But then, and then it didn't happen.
Right.
But is there a difference in what you have to do for IB versus AP? Or it's just the teacher agreeing to teach that course?
Honestly, I'd have to get you the exact, I need to see exactly what the AP versus the IB teachers do. But the AP usually offers it locally, like, so their trainings are here, whereas IB, they send them to California and other such things too. I don't, and it may have been online, but it didn't get done, so.
No.
So, yeah.
Understood. Yes. Well,
It's another, yeah. Another story. Ryan, cost. You were going to talk about cost. I'm sorry.
Cost-wise, and I got Dr. Jensen provided me kind of the numbers of the section breakdown, so I took that portion of the teacher salary of what they teach IB for, take the salary, take the benefits, then I took annual dues. I had our director of finance also pull all of the accounts that we pay annual dues to, training, supplies. So we're looking at, and again, supplies were from FY '25, because we don't know the exact amount this year yet, but somewhere around $130,000 would be what the cost would be. So if you take each one of those teachers, the fraction of their salaries, their benefits, then you look at the annual dues.
Teacher has AP, IB, and some, whatever, instead of 0.2 of their salary, it's 0.067.
Each section would be a 0.2 for a teacher. So if they're split between three, I just took 0.067. Or if they're split between AP and IB, I took 0.1. If it's a full IB section, I took a 0.2.
And from an HR perspective, have you surveyed the staff? Have they said like, nope, I'm out, like, you guys need to pick a poison here, I want to do this only? Like, do we have obviously we got the students side of it, we've got the teacher side of it, and then we have the financial side of it. I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to get at.
Yes and no. So in our exit surveys, that's one of the questions that we ask as far as why they might be leaving. A lot of times it is, I'm teaching 4 different preps. I want to go somewhere where I'm going to teach one prep, so that's the big thing that you see at the high school. I know in staffing every year as they are assigning, and they're in the process right now that, we need an English teacher that's going to teach 2 sections of English 9, a section of English 10 or whatever. So that is a constant struggle that the high school has, is of where they're trying to find teachers that are willing to teach these sections. Or sometimes it's, we just need a 6/5. Can we get someone to teach a 6/5? So every year it's not an easy task.
What's the current staff saying? Like, pulse of the staff, what are they saying right now?
Well, I can guess, but I won't.
Right.
I won't
I mean,
guess.
let's just throw it out. We have not surveyed the staff. We survey on exit interviews.
Yeah.
We have end of the year things. But in terms of those things, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has skin in the game. Us to sit on the board
Yeah.
and just go, oh, hey, this number looks right, let's go.
I can,
We did a little bit of the number, let's go last year. So
but I would say 100. I would say 100% of them would probably say if I only had to teach one subject, one same section, that's what they would teach. Not having to prep for 5 different classes.
Not being involved in the scheduling, anything like that, but when I pulled these numbers for sections, I mean, I began looking at going, what do you mean 0.067 of math? How many kids do we have for IB math with white? Like when I look at 0.067 for Mandarin,
for students.
Yeah, parent, counselor, teacher, admin, based on what they're offering, how they have access to what they need.
Well, so I'll just pull physics because it's the same teacher. So 34 students signed up for AP Physics for next year. 7 students signed up for AP Physics 2. 12 signed up for IB Physics as juniors, and 9 signed up for IB Physics as seniors. So that one kind of is a good example of what we're running into, where we're sectioning off the same group of kids. They're all high achievers. I mean, if you're taking AP Physics or IB Physics, you're smart. Same group of kids, we're chunking off into these pods, which we've been doing and we can continue to do. We just have to understand the cost.
So
That it is a
again, as the
cost of our
as the
own
board
budget.
that we talk about your 3 functions. One of them is budget. You can look at me and you can direct us. I can have an action item next week or on the 17th that says that we are not cutting any programs, and you can direct us to do that and know that you're eating into carry forward or that this number is going forward. So there are options. So what information do you want? I've got a list of the other things.
I mean, I still would like to see, just for the sake of number comparison, so look like we both know school. What are the number maps that give us ideas of how we can look at these and just go, what makes the most sense for us?
I would like to see a comparison of IB versus AP, because in those 3, of course, you're gonna.
Tell me what information you want.
I want to know how many costs per, no, something the teacher cost is different to have an IB teacher versus an AP teacher.
Yeah.
If there's more cost because only those kids that can sign up for renewal.
The training and then the fees.
There's an annual fee, right?
I think if you're training whether an AP teacher or dual will be the most appropriate, not have next.
So IB, AP, dual enrollment, and
Students signed up between those 3 because
Yep.
me, as a parent, if my son that's high achieving is like, hey, I can either take IB or dual enrollment or AP, I'm gonna look at my child, which one. If he only has one choice, I'm gonna put him in the one choice. So what programs do we value the most out of this? Or which ones are exact competing and they're just pulling the same
Or does our
students?
consumer value, like which one do we want? Does our consumer value the most, or do we?
Yes.
Because my values might be different than some of the communities'
For sure,
values.
but if you have 3 options that are pulling all the same students, of course we're gonna have super small classes in all of those. And the teacher's stuck with teaching, I teach AP, IB, and the dual enrollment version of that class, because it's all gonna depend on, oh, my friend said they're doing dual enrollment. Oh, my parent really likes IB. Oh, my parent said AP is what she took in high school, so she likes it. You know what I mean? You're just, and the kids are just checking a box, but they're all the same kids. They're
No, and life is choices. And some of the choices are the parents' choice, as you guys have mentioned. Some of them, perhaps, as they get older and they're seniors, maybe that's more the student's choice, and playing a role in that.
Well, that's it. Teachers have, I mean, everybody plays a role in dancing. I think this time around we got to get it right and making sure that we're hearing, not just hearing ourselves.
With the dual enrollment AP and IB, is there a big the upside to taking those courses? Is it different among those three offerings? Like, is there a? It's gonna give you the credit. Well, it's gonna give you the credit, AP gives you the credit.
If you pass the test,
Pass the test, which has,
IB gives the credit
so,
if you pass the test.
you get credit.
Patty, what's the
Correct.
dual?
Dual enrollment, it depends, perhaps accepted by fewer universities.
Correct.
For sure in state, but if you're going to Harvard, I mean, if you're going to Harvard, I don't know that they're gonna take any of them, I'll be honest. But, Harvard is gonna look more,
Because, you know, there was a
Positively at
student
IB.
here several years ago, moved to North Carolina, and she had taken a number of AP courses, went to North Carolina, they wouldn't accept the courses, so she came back here and re-enrolled at Cactus Shadows to finish her senior year, because she wasn't gonna get credit for her AP courses at whatever high school in North Carolina. That was, it was a big deal.
usually AP and IB are widely accepted by universities, but, I mean, being married to someone at the university, they're gonna give you the bottom, whatever it is. They're not gonna, you're still going to be taking levels of those prereqs no matter what. But you might not have to take college, right? Like, the dual enrollment will get you out of your first year writing program, I will say that. At least our in-state universities and probably many others. But, yeah, I mean, they're all good options. That's the end of, that's the other
They're
thing.
good
They all have very good things about them, but I do think
Once
it,
you see the money, then you look at what that dollar amount is, is there something else you can hit, so you can go on.
but I've got enrollment, cost, teacher. You guys want teacher input as well, like what the teachers
I
think?
would love to hear, yeah.
Yeah, because would an
Because here's
AP
what's gonna
teacher be like, yeah, I can teach the IB, I'm already teaching both anyways, it'd be great just to teach one. And then those students, sorry, you don't have AP, we have IB, you still have to take a test to get the credit. I get that's a different teaching philosophy, but that's something that's different than Pinnacle's offering. That's right.
At the same point in time, I would like to see it not just be a, hey, this is starting to happen, obviously, we've got some people here tonight. We're gonna go back to the call to the public, and they're gonna just talk at us, and so we're gonna be emotional, which is great to have a conversation. Why don't we have a town hall? That's where I was going. Like, we should have a town hall for the board and the staff, and let them talk to us. Hey, you're crazy, don't do this, this is wrong, hey, whatever. And then we match it back and we have that conversation here. If we don't need to bring people here, we need to go out to them and hear what they have to say. Make sure that we get this right. It's just cutting and cutting. I want to cut the ball. Don't get me wrong. I have no problem cutting. But I'm not going to cut just for the sake of like coming back to the table again and imposing ourselves.
And again, this is not cutting for the sake of hosing ourselves. This is actually right-sizing and putting the number of staff
But are
with
they-
students that is appropriate.
But are they the best choices? That's what I'm hearing. Are they the best choices? Are they? And
Again, speaking for myself, if I'm voting on something, I want my vote to count. I want to make sure that I did the right diligence, I put the work in, so at the end of the day, I'm supporting the district.
what are the other
The
options?
district and the people that are invested in it.
Other than this, what are the other options to come into?
There's always options.
Well, I know, but that's what I'm hearing, which is,
That's fine, but I'm not here to run the district. They are. Present us options.
One of the things that we've discussed too is creating, I don't want to call it a hard floor, but like a floor for a class. If you don't have 15 students, we don't run it, which in essence is what we're talking about with Mandarin
We can have that conversation.
and
We
French.
can have it, don't put more than 38 students in a class. We can easily have those types of conversations. But we have to put governors on them too, because there are ways to change those numbers. Again,
No, but there again, this is going to bring me conversation. I would love to hear what the four of you have to say, because I know what it means to me. But right now, we've got a 1.0 music teacher, and yes, it does get a little personal. So I feel comfortable speaking about it. Is that there's going to be a point 8 contract, because there are not enough students to justify having these split classes. The 2 band classes that are small this year, that's going to be one. So we're going to have 20 something in band, but that is requiring multiple levels of bands at once. Same thing with, there happens to be enough requests for guitar for a couple sections, but then there's not enough. And again, we've created all these different things because we wanted to give opportunities, and we never explored or never went through what are the ramifications of adding things like yoga. Okay, well, what that does is it dilutes an entire pool, and so kids that used to go into look at the smallest, music, theater, all of those things now have these other things. And again, best of intentions, but I will tell you, for me, and again, I will speak for Bill Dolezal, I would love to know what the board members think. To me, yoga does not need to be at a comprehensive high school. That is not a program that needs to be. A music program, a theater program, performing arts, the visual arts, those, yes, those are part of a comprehensive high school. Athletics, clubs after schools. So yes, I have no problem talking about what a comprehensive high school is to me. It is not about me. You are the representatives of the global population that elected you. So to you, what is a comprehensive high school? Because that's what we should be making. We have to have advanced academic opportunities. We do not need 4. Okay? We have to have even opportunities for employment. We should be getting them to all of these different things. I would love to have an ROTC program. We've been trying for years to get something that would even bump up, our enlistment E. It has never taken off once.
Meaning kids aren't interested, or?
Correct. That we get,
Have we
Yeah, I
asked,
know.
have we asked our consumer, our parents, our family, students, what they identify as a comprehensive high school?
Well, and I don't think it should be comprehensive high school. We're a small unified school district. It should be comprehensive from when you step in at preschool or kindergarten all the way through 12.
a comprehensive district.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Fair.
I mean, reason, like I said, hey, we started honors at middle school to feed the rigor piece that, hey, you don't have enough rigor. You can't just, let's see it all the way through.
Instead of being a K to 12, the thought was we were
5 different elementary schools.
we're a 12 to K, so this is where you end up. What you have to do is you go down the funnel to build those down here.
The biggest feedback from the consumer right now is inconsistency. We're inconsistent.
And so that's why I'm
And
asking the
that way you're gonna say,
question.
well, yeah, what does that mean? Because I just asked you guys the
What-
question. I don't know what that means. Because
what
we
is
don't put we don't put the emphasis in trying to understand. We just go, they said inconsistent. We move on.
What is the consumer want from our high school?
Sometimes I think people saying we're inconsistent don't know what they mean.
Right, but that's why you gotta ask the question. But again, this is where curiosity wins. Sometimes we're not curious. We're either on the defense, we're under attack, whatever the case may be, we just operate out of emotion. Emotion gets us every time.
But I will say that we do ask the consumer course guide, course request for students. That's asking them what they want, and they're speaking with their feet when there's only 10 that are signing up for Mandarin, and so that's
We're asking them based on this is what we have to offer.
correct.
Have we asked the question, what would you want to take? What is it that you want?
So yes, as a matter of fact, we've had community cadres, we've had groups that have sat down there and said these are the absolute things that they want. So yes, they have done that, and inevitably it always comes out exactly that they want something for our high kids. Our students at Cactus Shadows recognize that maybe they don't serve the middle and the low kids as well. So yes, we have asked them that. They want advanced course offerings. They want those opportunities. Those are the things that have gone on in the superintendent's cadres and my community cadres. If you want to have a forum, tell me when you would like to schedule a forum, and we can open it up, and you can listen. You can listen to whomever shows up.
And
There's also that problem.
and
You know what? At the end of the day, the effort's being made.
And I will say, President Greer, to your point, like as far as surveying the students or talking with students, I know a few years ago, and Patty might be able to pull it from Mrs. Shear, we surveyed kids about CTE because we were looking to expand. This was probably 3-4 years ago. And the courses that we offer is what they wanted already. They, you know, when we looked at Mr. Dolezal, maybe you can talk to it. Like I remember clearly,
Right.
we
Or
kids
it's
didn't want these
5
other
kids,
courses.
or right now we have 9 kids that are going to aviation. There's this little group that's this year, all of a sudden that was a big one. We can't do a CTE aviation course here for 9 kids. So again, the wonderful thing about this community is we have such a diverse learning population with all sorts of interests and all sorts of different places they want to go and that they're going to be successful in. But that does not allow us to run a program where we really need to have 25, 30 kids in a class to make this actually function and it to be long term. We might have 20 kids this year that want nursing. When they're gone, it'll be 8. And all of a sudden, what do we do? So, again, one of the beautiful things about this community, this small, diverse, wonderfully unique community is so eclectic and so wonderfully marvelous in terms of what they want to do and what they are going to do, sometimes in spite of us.
And at a certain point, I do think we have to say, this is our comprehensive high school, and we're wonderful, and we're really good at these things. And if IB is one of those things, IB is one of those things. If AP is that, if it's whatever it is, this is what we're really good at. And we can send you over here to EVIT, because when we look at our EVIT numbers, it's like 3 for this program, 2 for that, 5 for that, 8 for that, 6 for that, and it totals up to about 50 kids. But there's nothing that could be like, well, we can offer that here.
Well, here's the thing, we're already talking about finances. You can't. So even to some extent, it's like, bring up the fun part, but it's like, where's the conversation with you? Going, maybe we just let them power our whole program because we can't really do it. And we get really honest, and to your point, we become very focused on the things that we can do and we can't do without. I mean,
I think maybe at some point, once things are settled with them, then that's a discussion we have. Revisit. But
At what
then
point
we
do
are
you
also
stop
at their
kicking over the
mercy.
rocks because you've broken your foot?
the best part about chasing perfection is you find something first.
My last question for our 10 Gen Ed STMS, is that all just really Gen Ed? There's not really a lot of programming, or I guess.
Correct.
you're
We
gonna
will
have
still be
specific
offered,
courses.
so the language conversation will be similar, because the number of students we had, I don't have my STMS numbers right in front of me, but in French A, were
General teacher contract, so that, again, not
not
Yeah,
special.
I'm just trying to see how it affects particular programs, is my.
It should not be an entire program or anything like that. I mean, it could be that some teachers get offered a .8 FTE as their contract. We will do our best to not make that the case. We'll try our best to kind of make them rounder so that when we go through RIFs, it's you're either being RIFed or you're not being RIFed. Or again, there's going to be some natural attrition that we're hoping covers a lot of it.
English, math, social
Correct.
studies, science, but then there's a lot of options for electives.
Electives, right, right.
Which languages fall under that?
Languages fall under electives, yep, and so there will be some reduced there, and, yeah.
This is aligned with what you presented last year in regards to like, if we didn't close down the 2 schools, what was it, 2.8 million?
I presented that in January.
It was January,
If you
right?
remember,
Yeah, it was like 2.8.
So I did those, if we kept the expenditures from last year by not making any changes, 31.7 million, so we would have 800,000 carry forward.
Right. What was the total recommended cut that you have?
Well, I mean, here's the bottom line. That's an easy number. Because I showed you 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, all of those years, 32.2, 32.2, 32.3, 32 million. It wasn't until 2025 where we went to 30.9 million, and this year we're in 28. So essentially in 2 years we cut $4 million. Again, coming into this only a couple years in, there was discussion that $4 million was to be cut at some point in that budget. But when I'm looking at my AFR from M&O, I'm showing 32 million. And then when I'm looking at how much the state funded us for our students, 2022, 31.1, 2023, 31.8, 2024, 30.1, 2025, 28.4. So at no point did we live within our means. And that means we were borrowing the money from somewhere. And you all see it now with the capital. And if we look at capital, it was, what, 2 million, or no, I'm sorry, 2.1 million, 2 million, 2 million, 2 million, until we were at the point of only having potentially $1 million in carry forward. Now we're at the point of me going, if I have to replace a fuel tank at $600,000, I have a chiller, which we're renting right now until SFD gets us through. And if they do make us pay a portion of the cost, say $200,000 to $400,000, a roof and transportation for 56, that million wasn't even enough to cover.
Well, that's
So-
even if SFT goes through.
And that's if SFD does come through, yes.
I kind of lost faith in that process.
Great, but that is why, that's again why we're on the news. We're on the news on ABC 15 again, because of the 5-year trend of our capital, we moved 76% of our capital over to M&O, as they put it on the news to keep our lights on. So the question becomes now, 32 million, 32 million, 32 million, cut to 30.9. We're cutting, hopefully, staying in the 28. We know that RCL, like I said, is going to be in the 24s, 25.7, let's say, if we see that loss in enrollment. So that's where, yes, closing schools, we needed to get there because we couldn't stay at $32 million. And that's
I'm trying to
the
look at all your
predicament
proposed cuts and trying
that
to figure
we're
out.
at.
And this is purely for 26, 27.
Yeah, when looking at that, if you look at it, let's take Sonora Trails. Let's just go by numbers. Staffing at a full rollover last year, they staffed at 940 students. We're sitting at 835, let's say right now. We're already overstaffed by 105 students. Then, as we see our 8th grade move on, the 5th grade coming into 6th grade, natural attrition again, smaller class sizes. If we also see the loss that we've seen from the start of the year, where we started at 870, now we're at 830, and we calculated some of that loss, we're talking 700 students. I mean, on a full rollover, I want to say it's 750.
717 to 756.
So 750 on a full rollover, not losing one. So now you're talking, we're staffed at 940 right now at Sonora Trails. And let's say best case scenario, we get to 740. So by being overstaffed, we have to make up for the overstaffing this year by 105 students. And now losing another 100 students, we have to make up that. So we're really doing 2 years of cuts in one, is essentially what that Sonora Trails.
But that's
equates
looking
to.
back, not looking forward.
Good, so that would be next year, we would have to cut in order to even out,
Right.
according to our staffing numbers, that can.
And when you say next year, that's what
That's what
That's
this
what
is.
this is.
Yes.
And then from
So
there on
nothing-
out, it's just minor
Right.
tweaks.
Because
as
this
it
will be the
shrinks.
biggest, is what you're saying. So
That's the hope.
assuming we follow the trend,
Correct.
27, 28. Yeah.
Well,
It's
and
just your
28.
200, if your kindergarten enrollment stays the same, we still have to cut $1 million
every year. Correct. And that's what you're facing, is that $1 million every year. Now, the other thing is, if we're really looking at it, and we're looking at the revenue control limit, which is, let's just say, ends up, let's round it up to 25. We are moving $1 million over to 26 million from capital. Eventually, we really want to take that capital money and keep it in capital. So yes, we are cutting. So say we do get to the point where we're at 28.6 billion. So that's $1 million under the 29.6 max capacity that I said we should have. That means that $1 million that we moved over from capital, I can move that to carry forward and I don't have to use it.
And what can you
that's a conversation that's on the next agenda.
But that's an important conversation, I'm thinking, in terms of.
Well, and again, this is talking about budget for next year, so ultimately, yes, we are doing the background work in terms of looking at that budget, so there will be a presentation, I'm shooting for April 7th with a company that will come in and talk about, again, here are options.
Well, I think
One
that's
option, there's options with.
Yeah, well,
with
so,
all
I
those
mean,
options.
sometimes it's like, can we execute faster?
when we look at all of this and to Brianna's point, we need to focus on being a comprehensive district, starting early. But I think we have to really fine tune, what does that look like? And we have to choose those things that we're gonna do really well and market and sell. And we're gonna have to let go of some things that is gonna hurt. It is, but you can't do everything, you know? Can't do all. You can't be the cheesecake factory. Yeah, right. And everybody shrink their menu. We decided.
Well, then we want to say, we have programs that are competing for the same kids.
Right.
Like, you have 3 programs that you're gonna have to split this population of, say, 300 kids 3 ways. You know what I mean? Which then dilutes that.
Well, and it's kind of like we're turning into where you are that small district where I know many people who went to a smaller high school, you had to participate in every activity because they needed your participation in every activity. And it even makes you start to wonder about, like, with the athletics, does it need to be quite as big and flashy, or does some of it look into just fun participation? I don't want to say like the olden days, but like, I mean, does like cheer sometimes to me borders into club cheer as opposed to just a regular cheerleading high school? I'm not going to go there. They love it. I'm just saying it's $6,000, $8,000 a kid. Like, that's not, we're cheering and stunting and just.
How much does the district pay? I mean, there's $1 million a year, let's call it, that we're paying that we need to solve. That's what I took away from that.
That's one of the things that I've got you on this program breakdown, so I can show.
Yeah, because I mean, that tells me when you're done. I'll tell you, it's been a lot of fees this year.
Well, what's interesting is, and I think Mrs. Sereno can speak to this because her daughter just graduated and she was part of the basketball program. I mean, there was a $335 fee, but then on top of that, Mrs. Sereno, you had other things you paid for, like in the athletic program, right? So how much would you say out of pocket for LE?
Probably around
2,500 for the prep. Now, how much did you pay directly to the school?
I know 335.
So there's your difference, $335 to the school, but she paid $2,500. Where's the rest of that money? It's not. But when she pays $2,500, not everybody knows. Going back to that argument, that $2,500 doesn't go into our accounts. That's in separate accounts out there. Like who's?
No, but hopefully we're not writing checks from our account for that if somebody's paying an additional $2,000
Well, it depends
up
on
there to participate.
what is their booster club paying for. I
Meals every, pre-game
We're-
meals every time, that adds up, and
like, and Mrs. Sereno, did the extra $2,500 or how much you paid for that, did that pay for any floor resurfacing, any gym improvements?
Yeah.
But it goes back to what's essential. Like, so
I-
what do we need to give the essential, and then the
Yeah.
boosters should give that.
We're kind of repeating our conversation here, so thank you all for your input. And at this point, I'm going to ask if there's a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye.